Chapter 259. While Rog was looking at Luo Nan, who was holding a warhammer, was also silently observing Rog. Unlike Rog, who knows him, Luo Nan doesn't know anything about Rog. Luo Nan only knows two people from Earth. One is Captain Carroll, who single-handedly forced the Carey fleet to retreat decades ago. The other is a marauder who calls himself Star-Lord. As for the name of this Star-Lord, Luo Nan doesn't know, nor is he interested in knowing. The reason why he knows Star-Lord is purely because Star-Lord is a relatively rare Earthling in the universe. That's all. But from now on, Rog will be added to the list of Earthlings he knows. After witnessing the battle scene of Rog and the Shadow Clone pushing all the way to the command center, Luo Nan knew that this man from Earth is not simple. Although in Luo Nan's view, the Carey warriors who had just been killed by Rog are completely inferior to the warriors of his accuser legion. But no matter what, those are qualified warriors raised by the Carey Empire, not mobs like space pirates or criminals. If they were compared to the human soldiers on Earth, the Carey soldiers would definitely be considered elites. Earthling, tell me your name, you have the qualifications to make me personally take action. After carefully looking at Rog, Luo Nan said, his tone full of confidence, or rather, pride. Not to mention that Rog is just an Earthling. Even if he is a person from the Nova Empire, Luo Nan's attitude will not change much. He is the commander of the Carey Empire, Luo Nan, who has an illustrious existence in the entire universe. Although Luo Nan's attitude is not very friendly, he does have the strength to match his pride. However, Luo Nan obviously ignored one point, that is, Rog can't understand what he is saying at all. Luo Nan doesn't know the language of Earth, and Rog also doesn't know the language of the Carey Empire. Rog, who has not really started his journey in the universe, can't have the so-called universal language translator on him. So for Luo Nan's inquiry, Rog's response was to directly raise the disaster pistol and shoot him. Bang! The light blue chakra bullet arrived in front of Ronan at a speed faster than the speed of sound. Then Luo Nan blocked it with his warhammer. Although in the original timeline, the manipulator Luo Nan died in a hilarious manner at the hands of the Milky Way awkward dance troupe. But there was one point that couldn't be denied. And that was that Luo Nan was a ferocious person who could hold the strength gem with his bare hands without dying. In Rog's memory, there were only 3 people who could do this alone. One was Luo Nan, one was Thanos Dominator, and the other was an unknown member of the Celestial Group. For such an existence, no matter how serious he was, it would not be an exaggeration. After casually blocking the chakra bullet, Luo Nan finally realized that there was a language barrier between him and Rog. Thus, he opened his mouth once more. But this time, he deliberately turned on the language translation function on the spaceship. Report your name? If you want to know my name, beat me first. I don't have the habit of reporting my name to a loser. Rog put the disaster pistol back into the holster and replied arrogantly, I'm not afraid of showing off. Luo Nan didn't expect that Rog would give such an answer. However, he didn't have any dissatisfaction or anger because of this. Instead, he felt that what Rog said was very reasonable. 2 men of different races with similar names had achieved a strange resonance in such a strange way. Fortunately, Rog didn't have any telepathy ability now. Otherwise, he would definitely tell Luo Nan clearly that they were not the same kind of people, and it was impossible for them to have the same hobby. Luo Nan didn't speak again. He snorted softly and instantly attacked Rog. In terms of speed, Luo Nan's speed wasn't very fast. He wasn't as fast as Quicksilver and Owl, who had awakened the speed god power. But in terms of combat experience, Luo Nan was obviously several times stronger than Quicksilver and Owl combined. In a battle, speed was very important, but whether there was a corresponding attack that matched the speed was even more important. Luo Nan's speed wasn't very fast, but his attack completely matched his speed. The warhammer in his hand attacked Rog's head like a meteor. Clang! Just when the head of the warhammer was about to hit his head, the silver-white Kusanagi sword appeared in Rog's right hand and hit the handle of the warhammer like lightning. Boom! Neither Luo Gu nor Ronan unleashed any energy attacks. However, a visible shockwave surged out from the point of impact when the warhammer and the Kusanagi no Tsurugi sword collided. The shockwave produced a powerful explosion. The shock wave produced by the explosion was like a wave hitting Rog and Luo Nan's body. The shock wave that was enough to blow away ordinary people didn't make them shake at all. The two people stood motionless like boulders on a mountain peak. Luo Nan didn't hesitate when his attack failed. The warhammer, which was not known for its flexibility, showed a side that was beyond common sense. The warhammer in Luo Nan's hand was like a viper that had a life of its own. It suddenly retracted and changed directions, drawing a beautiful arc. Then from top to bottom, it smashed straight at Rog's head. If it hit, Rog's head would explode like a watermelon falling from a high place. However, Rog wouldn't give Luo Nan such a chance. It was always him who smashed other people's heads. When had he ever seen him get smashed in the head? The warhammer attack was fast, but Rog disappeared even faster. Accurately speaking, he didn't disappear, but attacked. Lightning body blink. Kusanagi sword, Chidori blade. Rog was like a real lightning bolt as he appeared behind Luo Nan in an instant. The Kusanagi sword wrapped in lightning directly chopped at the back of Luo Nan's neck. Right now, Luo Nan was wearing battle armor, and he was wearing a hood made of unknown metal or some other material. As long as the Chidori blade hit, even if Luo Nan's neck was made of steel, Rog had the confidence to cut him in half. The warhammer was still descending. Luo Nan didn't have time to turn around and defend. The moment Luo Nan's silhouette disappeared, Luo Nan was on full alert. As a warrior who had experienced hundreds of battles, he obviously knew that his biggest weakness was behind him. When the Kusanagi sword was only 10 centimeters away from Luo Nan's neck, Luo Nan's body suddenly exploded with a dark energy that was as dark as ink. This sudden dark energy didn't disperse like a shock wave. Instead, it instantly formed a 360-degree energy shield, completely enveloping Luo Nan. Zizizi! The Kusanagi sword wrapped in lightning chopped at the black energy shield, exploding with a silvery white electric current. Chapter 260. Rog wasn't surprised that Luo Nan was able to block his sword. In other words, he would be surprised if Luo Nan wasn't able to block it. How could a person who was able to make a name for himself in the universe be killed so easily? Without any hesitation, Rog pulled back his sword and retreated, instantly pulling a distance of over 10 meters. After Rog retreated, Luo Nan, who was holding a warhammer, turned around in a calm and unhurried manner. He stared at Rog with a dull expression. At the beginning, Luo Nan didn't have a clear understanding of Rog's strength. The carry soldiers who went to stop Rog were like amateurs who were killed in an instant. They didn't provide any valuable information. After exchanging a few blows with Rog, Luo Nan finally understood why those carry soldiers couldn't withstand a single blow. Whether it was strength, speed, skill, or combat intuition, Rog could be considered to be at the top level. And he was different from the soldiers who were only good at physical attacks. He was also proficient in energy attacks. Even though Luo Nan didn't know what ninjutsu was, he could determine that Rog was proficient in energy attacks just by looking at the lightning body blink and Chidori blade. This wasn't a baseless guess, but rather a combat intuition cultivated from his rich combat experience. An enemy who didn't have any shortcomings in the offensive aspect. Interesting. Other than his constitution being a bit weaker, Luo Nan didn't see any weaknesses on Rog's body. But this was only the information obtained from the short exchange. As for whether Rog had any other weaknesses, Luo Nan needed further confirmation. Luo Nan silently adjusted his evaluation of Rog's strength and increased his threat level by a few levels. In the Carry Army's general evaluation standard, the threat level of an ordinary adult male from Earth was close to 0. But the threat level of the Flake Meta Beast, which was known as one of the most dangerous creatures in the universe, was extremely high. As for Rog, Luo Nan felt that his threat level was even higher than the Flake Meta Beast. He had reached an extremely high level. But even so, Luo Nan didn't have any thoughts of retreating. Creatures that were evaluated as extremely threatening had died by his hands more than one or two. Although Rog was very strong, he hadn't reached the point where he couldn't resist. If Luo Nan only felt that Rog had the qualifications to make him personally take action against him before, then right now Rog was an opponent worthy of him taking seriously and going all out against. The controller, Luo Nan, was prepared to attack with all his strength. Without any warning, Luo Nan attacked Rog once more. This time, he did not hold back at all and directly unleashed his peak strength. Luo Nan charged towards Rog like a meteor, and the warhammer in his hand began to radiate with a black glow. Rog hadn't arrived yet, but the shockwave from the warhammer had already arrived in front of Rog. Boom! The terrifying shockwave hit Rog's position like a missile, blasting a 10-meter-wide hole in the metal floor. The huge impact caused the entire command center to shake violently. The shockwave emitted by the warhammer was indeed powerful, but it did not cause any damage to Rog. In the instant that the warhammer radiated with a black glow, he used lightning body blink to leave his original position. The warhammer in Luo Nan's hand looked ordinary and mediocre, just like an ordinary warhammer made of metal. But this warhammer was a high-tech product of the Carey Empire, and it had a very special name. Omnipotent Weapon. This was the name of Luo Nan's warhammer. Don't look at the name, the warhammer's abilities were not lacking at all. It could disintegrate or recombine matter, manipulate matter's gravity and density. It could control lightning, absorb energy, manipulate energy, create an energy shield, fire shockwaves. It could fly, create a force field, create a time shift domain, carry out hyperspace, teleportation. Even in the technologically advanced Carey Empire, this omnipotent weapon, warhammer, was a rare god-level weapon. In terms of pretentiousness, Luo Nan's omnipotent weapon warhammer might not be able to compare to Thor's hammer Mjolnir. But in terms of practicality, the omnipotent weapon warhammer threw Thor's hammer by several levels. And it was different from the picky Thor's hammer. The omnipotent weapon warhammer was much more approachable, and its requirements for the user were much lower. After using the lightning body blink to dodge the shockwaves emitted by the warhammer, Rog didn't hold back against Luo Nan. He waved his hand and threw out two ninjutsu. Water Release, Water Dragon Bullet. Fire Release, Fire Dragon Bullet. A 20-meter-long enormous water dragon appeared behind Rog out of thin air. It opened its enormous dragon mouth and flew directly towards Luo Nan. At the same time, the flames that Rog spat out from his mouth turned into 3 enormous flame dragons, attacking Luo Nan from 3 different directions at the same time. Wanting to use close-range attacks to get rid of Luo Nan wasn't an easy matter. And close-range attacks would bring unnecessary threats to himself. As a sufficiently cautious ninja, Rog obviously wouldn't mindlessly rush up recklessly. Rumble! The water dragon and the fire dragon arrived in front of Luo Nan in the blink of an eye, and then they hit the energy shield around Luo Nan's body. Whether it was the water dragon bullet or the fire dragon bullet, they weren't particularly powerful ninjutsu. The reason why he chose to use these 2 ninjutsu to counterattack was purely because these 2 ninjutsu looked better. Even the Chidori blade couldn't break through the defense of Luo Nan's energy shield. Of course, the fire dragon bullet and the water dragon bullet couldn't break through. The water droplets formed by the shattering of the water dragon danced in the sky. The high temperature brought by the fire dragon quickly evaporated the water droplets. The temperature in the command center began to rise rapidly. Luo Nan, who blocked the water dragon bullet and the fire dragon bullet, didn't have time to counterattack. Rog's attack once again arrived in front of him. Wind Release, Vacuum Chain Wave. Rog spat out a large breath from his mouth. 7 or 8 sickle weasel-like wind blades instantly arrived in front of Luo Nan, slashing at the energy shield like sharp blades. The wind blade-like vacuum chain wave could not only cut the opponent's body and weapon, but it could also cut the opponent's chakra. Of course, Luo Nan couldn't have chakra. So what the vacuum chain wave cut at this time was the energy circuit of the energy shield. Whether it was a barrier or an energy shield, there would be an energy circuit during the maintenance period. So when faced with a barrier and an energy shield, cutting off the energy circuit was the best way to break the barrier and the energy shield. Of course, if one's strength was strong enough to ignore the barrier and the energy shield, then it was also possible to break it with brute force. Rog didn't expect the water dragon bullet and the fire dragon bullet to break Luo Nan's energy shield from the beginning. He just wanted to use the water dragon bullet and the fire dragon bullet to test the weakness of the energy shield. In other words, the key connection points of the energy circuit. This kind of thing might be a bit unimaginable for other people. But for Rog, who had the Sharingan, it wasn't a difficult thing. The insight of the Sharingan was indeed inferior to the Byakugan. Even the Manjikyu Sharingan's insight couldn't be compared to the Byakugan. But he didn't need the abnormal insight of the Byakugan. He just needed to roughly determine the connection points of the energy circuit in a few suspicious areas. That was enough. Vacuum chain waves sickle weasel wind blades seemed to randomly cut at the energy shield, but every landing point was meticulously designed by Rog. Luo Nan never thought that Rog would actually be able to formulate an attack plan that specifically targeted the energy shield in such a short period of time. At this time, he still maintained absolute trust in the energy shield. However, at the moment when the sickle weasel's wind blade hit the energy shield, it had helped him block countless attacks. The energy shield, which had never been broken by anyone, shattered like glass. Lightning release, Chidori. Chapter 261. Rog, who was originally 20 meters away, instantly arrived in front of the accuser Luo Nan. His left hand, which was sparkling with a silvery white lightning, directly pierced towards Luo Nan's heart. Right now Luo Nan was still in shock from his energy shield being broken. He never thought that his energy shield, which had never been broken before, would actually break at this time. Compared to the shattering of his energy shield, Rog, who had instantly appeared in front of him, didn't give him too much of a shock. It was already too late for him to reconstruct his energy shield. Rog wouldn't give him this kind of time. If Rog wasn't facing Luo Nan right now, but another carry warrior, then this Chidori would have pierced through the opponent's heart without any suspense, thoroughly ending the opponent's life. But Luo Nan wasn't an ordinary carry warrior. This wasn't the first time he faced a fatal attack that was close at hand. Even though he didn't have enough time to make any sort of defense or counterattack, he was still able to dodge the Chidori. The Kree armor he was wearing had bought him a true moment of time. And it was in this instant that normal people were unable to detect or grasp that Luo Nan activated the most peculiar ability of the Universal Warhammer, Time Shift Domain. Luo Nan didn't have the ability to control time. The Universal Warhammer couldn't control time like the Time Gem. But the Universal Warhammer was one of the few weapons in the universe that could use the power of time. In the technologically advanced Carry Empire, why was the Universal Warhammer able to be called a god-level personal weapon? Aside from the Universal Warhammer being extremely versatile, the most important thing was that the Universal Warhammer was able to use Time Shift Domain. As for how the domain of Time Shift was created, even the Carry Empire's highest intelligence couldn't give an accurate answer. This ability was like time playing a joke on the Universal Warhammer. It inexplicably allowed the Universal Warhammer to possess this ability. How the Time Shift Domain appeared wasn't the main point that Luo Nan cared about right now. What he needed right now was to use the Time Shift Domain's ability to dodge Rog's Chidori. When the Time Shift Domain's ability was activated, the time Luo Nan was in seemed to be completely isolated from the time of the entire world. It formed a sort of time parallel. For others, time didn't change at all. It flowed as it should. But for Luo Nan, who was in the domain of time movement and movement, the time he was in was extended. It was extended in a different sense. In this extended period of time, he had no way of changing what was already happening in the real world. Because that was the power of time. If he couldn't change time, he couldn't change reality. However, the Time Shift Domain didn't exist to change time in the first place. From the name Time Shift Domain, one could see the true use of this ability. Mobile domain. In the flowing river of time, it was a domain that could move one's position. In a way, this ability was very similar to teleportation that involved the power of space. However, teleportation relied on the power of space, while the Time Shift Domain relied on the power of time. Although the borrowed power was completely different, the effect was still very similar. So, in Rog's perception, Luo Nan, who had clearly been stabbed by him, instantly disappeared before his eyes. He dodged it? Luo Nan's instant disappearance made Rog frown slightly. He knew better than anyone else how fast Chidori's speed was. He had just felt the touch of hitting Luo Nan, and the green blood on his left hand's fingers proved this point. How did he disappear? Rog wasn't unfamiliar with the power of space, And he didn't think that Luo Nan's disappearance was due to his speed being too fast. Whether it was teleportation using the power of space or the instant disappearance brought about by extreme speed, it wasn't the same feeling as just now. Relying on the all-purpose Warhammer's time shift domain, Luo Nan successfully dodged Rog's Chidori and saved his life that was in imminent danger. Although he temporarily avoided the fate of death, using the time shift domain consumed a huge amount of energy, causing him to feel an intense sense of fatigue. There was no need to doubt the effect of the time shift domain. This wasn't the first time he used this ability to save his life. Even so, he still couldn't completely control this ability. He could only use it as a life-saving skill at a critical moment. Feeling the faint pain and numbness from his chest, Luo Nan began to seriously ponder. He had already experienced how strong Rog was. Although the current Rog didn't seem to be going all out, the strength he displayed so far had completely exceeded his expectations. Water, fire, wind, and thunder. In less than a few seconds, Rog used 4 completely different energy attacks. This level of proficiency in energy manipulation was even stronger than some special energy creatures. Did you kill Captain Marvel Carol? After a few seconds of silence, Luo Nan suddenly asked. You know that she's dead, but you don't know who killed her? Rog asked back. We really don't know who killed her. We just confirmed her death. It wasn't that the Kree's intelligence network wasn't advanced enough, nor was it that the Kree spies they hid on Earth didn't work hard enough. It was that they really didn't know anything. Even the news of Captain Marvel's death was told to them by someone else. Of course, Luo Nan wouldn't completely believe this kind of news from an unknown source, so he made some small confirmations. After a hint from the Supreme Intelligence and a visit to the planet Captain Marvel Carol guarded, he finally confirmed that the news of Captain Marvel Carol's death was true. Thus, he brought the Kree battleship to Earth and contacted Maximus at the same time. According to their plan, this should have been a very simple plan to conquer the planet, just like the other conquering operations they had done before. But it was very clear that things didn't develop as smoothly as they imagined. Since you know that she died in my hands, then I'll send you to accompany her. As soon as his voice fell, Rog attacked Luo Nan once again. Although he didn't know how Luo Nan dodged Chidori, he was very sure of one thing. The current Luo Nan consumed a lot of energy. Being able to dodge once didn't mean that he could dodge a second time. And judging from Luo Nan's current state, Rog doubted whether he could use the magical evasion skill from before again. Chapter 262. Facing Rog's lightning-like attack, Ronan had no intention of continuing to use his energy shield. The scene of his energy shield shattering had left a deep impression on him. It had even almost ended his life. If he hadn't used the time shift domain, he would have already reported his death to the universe's 5 gods of creation. The Kusanagi sword wrapped in silver lightning carried an aura of destruction as it arrived in front of Ronan. It directly pierced towards Ronan's already injured heart. In close combat, Rog had always liked to target vital organs such as the heart and throat. Although Ronan was stronger than the average Kree warrior, he was no exception. Seeing that the tip of the Kusanagi sword was about to hit him, Ronan finally moved. The warhammer in his hand instantly exploded with a terrifying shockwave far stronger than before. Compared to the previous shockwave, this shockwave was not only stronger, but it also covered a wider area. Boom! With Luo Nan as the center, a terrifying shockwave exploded like a bomb. It attacked every corner of the surrounding area from 360 degrees. Ronan was very clear that his speed was far inferior to Rog's. A shockwave with a fixed direction would have a hard time hitting Rog, who excelled in speed, so he used a simple and crude attack without any blind spots. The command center that had already suffered a shockwave once welcomed another terrifying shockwave. But this time, it wasn't just the command center that was shaken. Even the battleship itself began to shake violently. Rog was no stranger to Ronan's attack style. It could even be said that in the past few months, this kind of area of effect attack was the most familiar attack style he had. The shockwave that couldn't be seen by the naked eye had just touched the tip of the Kusanagi sword when he decisively let go of the sword in his right hand. The Kusanagi sword was sent flying without any suspense, and his figure disappeared in an instant. Flying Thor. After being on the Kree battleship for so long, how could he not have left behind a few Flying Thor spells? Before fighting a boss in a game, you must save it. When you arrive at a place that could potentially become a battlefield, you must prepare a Flying Thor spell in advance. Being a cautious ninja wasn't just for show. The Kusanagi sword was sent flying, and the terrifying shockwave was like a hurricane that attacked the surroundings. The control panel was sent flying, the walls were broken, and the floor was shattered. Not only did Ronin's attack stop Rog's attack, it also destroyed the warship's command center. Luo Nan was different from Rog, who needed to preserve the warship to complete his mission. Clearly, Luo Nan didn't have any misgivings in this aspect. Let alone destroying the command center of the battleship, even if the battleship was blown up, he wouldn't feel any heartache. When the shockwave completely dissipated, the command center that was originally filled with Kree style was already a mess, turning into an even more punk style of space pirates. Even a space pirate spaceship would not have such a dilapidated command center. It was absolutely impossible to kill Rog with just the shockwave, no matter how strong the shockwave was. Luo Nan was very clear on this point. So when Rog disappeared in front of him once again, he suddenly raised the warhammer in his hand and fiercely smashed it into the ravaged ground. Bang! The shining black hammer hit the metal floor heavily. The black light from the hammerhead flowed to all the places and objects it touched like an electric current. Gravity manipulation. Luo Nan didn't choose to manipulate energy. After witnessing Rog's ninjutsu, he knew that he was no match for Rog in terms of energy manipulation. So he set his sights on materials that were easier to manipulate. Compared to manipulating energy, manipulating materials was undoubtedly much simpler. The metal and materials that flowed through by the black energy began to slowly float up. The devastated command center seemed to have sunk into an environment where gravity was out of control. Relying on the all-purpose warhammer, Luo Nan could manipulate the gravity and density of materials. To a certain extent, he could control these materials as he pleased. What he was doing now was to create a battlefield that was more suitable for him, a battlefield where he could display his full strength. These seemingly floating metal fragments could be turned into weapons to attack Rog when he needed them. They could also be turned into shields to block Rog. After doing all this, Luo Nan added a new energy shield to himself. Although the energy shield couldn't completely block Rog's attack, blocking Rog for a while wasn't too big of a problem. With the energy shield added and the battlefield constructed, the next step was to find Rog's tracks. Luo Nan had a rough understanding of Rog's fighting habits. Create openings and then assassinate at high speed. Whether it was the sword that slashed at the back of Luo Nan's neck or the attack that nearly pierced his heart, they were all like this. While Luo Nan was searching for Rog's tracks, Rog once again returned to the command center with the flying thunder god. He stood on the blade of the Kusanagi sword that was inserted into the wall and looked down at Luo Nan from above. An energy shield and floating metal fragments. This was a defensive counterattack. Rog wasn't surprised by Luo Nan's choice. Anyone would have made the same choice after experiencing two assassin-like close-range assassins in a row. When Rog stood on the Kusanagi sword and looked down at Luo Nan raised his head to look at him. His face was full of vigilance. At the same time, there was a hint of provocation. Aren't you very good at high-speed close-range assassinations? Come on then. Bring it on. Although Luo Nan didn't say a word, Rog saw through his thoughts. However, even if the two of them wanted to communicate now, they probably wouldn't have the chance. Most of the external equipment in the command center was destroyed by Luo Nan's shockwave attack that didn't distinguish between friend and foe. If nothing unexpected happened, the translation system should have been completely destroyed. Looking at Luo Nan's vigilant expression, Rog suddenly sighed. Luo Nan's response wasn't wrong. He should have been vigilant. However, he overlooked a very important matter. Or rather, he didn't realize this matter at all. Rog was good at more than just physical attacks and energy attacks. He was good at mental attacks as well. When Luo Nan stared at him without blinking, Rog silently changed his 3-Tomo Sharingan to Mangekyo Sharingan. Tsukuyami. Seeing Rog's 3-Tomo Sharingan inexplicably rotate, Luo Nan sensed that something was wrong. However, he didn't have any chance at this time. In just an instant, Luo Nan's mind was pulled into the Tsukuyumi world by Rog. It was a Tsukuyumi world that was completely controlled by Rog. The ground was as black as ink and flowing water. A huge red moon hung in the gray sky. Luo Nan's face was full of vigilance as he constantly sized up this strange world. Then, he saw Rog wearing a black auspicious cloud robe and the Kusanagi sword in his hand that shone with a cold light. Chapter 263. The moment he saw Rog, Luo Nan instinctively wanted to clench the omnipotent warhammer in his hand. But he soon realized that there was nothing in his hand. Not only that, but he was also instantly bound by a powerful force that he could not resist. His entire body was tightly bound to the cross that was slightly larger than him. Not good. Although Luo Nan didn't know what had happened to him, he was certain that he had completely lost the ability to resist. No matter how hard he tried, no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't break free from this seemingly ordinary cross and the small chain that bound his hands and feet. Don't struggle. If you can break free from the shackles, you can leave this place freely. Rog ignored Luo Nan's struggle because he had already confirmed that Luo Nan's mental strength was far inferior to his the moment he pulled Luo Nan into Tsukuyumi's world. It was a bit funny. Tsukuyumi was his Mangekyo ability, but he didn't know how to crack Tsukuyumi. If it was in Naruto's world, he more or less knew some ways to crack Tsukuyumi. But here, he could only try one by one. Up to now, only 3 people had experienced Tsukuyumi. One was Hulk, one was the unexpected Banner, and the other was Luo Nan in front of him. Hulk tried to crack it but failed. Banner barely tried to crack it, but the result was worse than Hulk's. As for Luo Nan, Rog was looking forward to his performance. Where is this? After confirming that he couldn't break free from the shackles for the time being, Luo Nan quickly calmed down and asked, "You can simply understand this place as a world that belongs to me. By the way, let me remind you, don't count on others to save you. No one will come." Although Luo Nan seemed to have given up resisting, Rog knew very well that it was absolutely impossible for a person like him to accept his fate so easily. Generally speaking, the more a person pursues strength, the more unwilling they are to accept their fate. And Luo Nan was obviously the kind of person who pursued strength extremely. "What do you want to do? You brought me here specially. Don't tell me you want to chat with me?" Speaking of this, Luo Nan suddenly realized something. "It seems that you have also discovered that this place isn't the real world. If this is the real world, I won't understand what you're saying, and you won't understand what I'm saying either." Rog answered casually. He wasn't worried that Luo Nan would guess anything from his answer. Sure enough, Luo Nan became silent after hearing Rog's answer. It wasn't the real world, which meant that it was a mental attack. In the universe, although there weren't many people who could use spiritual attacks, it wasn't a small number either. Some races were born with mental or telepathic abilities. Mental attacks were what these special races were good at. Although Luo Nan's many years of battle experience didn't allow him to obtain any unparalleled super strength, it allowed him to possess a wealth of experience that far exceeded that of an ordinary person. In his memory, there was a race with antennae on their heads that had the innate talent of telepathy. Luo Nan began to rapidly recall the memories in his mind related to mental attacks and how to break away from them. He hoped to find useful information from within. Time passed bit by bit. Rog didn't stop Luo Nan. He allowed Luo Nan to think of countermeasures. 10 minutes passed, 20 minutes passed. Half an hour later, Luo Nan revealed a helpless smile. There was no other way. He couldn't find any method that could help him break away from his current situation. There wasn't even a theoretical method. "It looks like you should have given up by now. Since that's the case, then it's my turn." Rog used the Kusanagi sword in his hand to pat Luo Nan's large face. Then he continued to speak. "In the beginning, I planned to see just how much strength you had before killing you. But now that I think about it, it would have been too boring to just kill you like this." The famous accuser Luo Nan had silently died in the hands of an earthling. No matter how you look at it, it would have been too shameful. More importantly, I feel that you still have a bit of value that hasn't been squeezed out of you. So, I plan to give you a chance to live. Luonen didn't say a word when Rog was speaking. He just listened in silence. When Rog finished speaking, a trace of disdain appeared on his face. You want to use the threat of death to humiliate me? Ignorant earthling. Looking at Luonan's expression of, I'm not interested, Rog sighed once again. Even though he didn't know what Luonan was thinking, it was clear that Luonan had rejected his good intentions. Since that was the case, then let's go with the standard set meal. Oh right, let me remind you. Death isn't the most painful thing. Wanting to die but not being able to die is. As soon as he finished speaking, the number of Rog in front of Luonan increased from 1 to 10. Then, these Rog raised the Kusanagi sword in their hands at the same time and stabbed Luonan from different angles. Humans had to learn how to cherish something after losing it. In the following time, Luonan fully experienced the pain of wanting to die but not being able to. Of course, Rog would ask Luonan from time to time when he was experiencing this hellish pain. However, Rog's questioning time wasn't fixed. Sometimes it was a few hours. Sometimes it was a day. It had to be said that a professional warrior's mental endurance was stronger than a normal person's. Especially for Luonan, who had seen and experienced a lot. He was a warrior with a certain level of strength. His mental endurance was even more outstanding. Even so, Luonan relented in the end after enjoying an entire 5 days of torturous pain. I agree. Luonan seemed to use the last of his strength to say these words. Then his mind returned to the real world once again. Luonan's tormented mind had just returned to his body when he fell forward uncontrollably. He laid on the ground like a corpse, not moving at all. After lying on the cold metal floor for over 10 minutes, Luonan finally struggled to sit up. He raised his head to look at Rog, who was less than a meter away from him. According to our agreement, you have to hand over the remaining 2 Kree battleships to me. Then you can leave. In order to smoothly communicate with Luonan, Rog intentionally obtained a universal language translator from 2 Kree warriors while Luonan was lying on the ground like a corpse. I never go back on my promises. With Luonan's personal arrangement, Rog easily obtained control of the other 2 Kree battleships. As for the Kree people on the battleships, he had Luonan pack them up and take them away. He only wanted the battleships. The Kree people and whatnot weren't part of his plan. Chapter 264. The handover was smoother than Rog imagined, or it could be said that Luonan's control over the Carry warriors was stronger than he imagined. Even if Luonan needed others to help him walk, all the Carry warriors chose to obey unconditionally after he issued the order. Before I leave, I want to know, who did I lose to? Before the battle began, Luonan had asked Rog's name. At that time, his attitude was much more arrogant than now. Rog, 4th Hokage Rog. After thinking for a bit, Rog reported his name as the 4th Hokage. Luonan's fame in the universe wasn't small. Letting him know his name as the 4th Hokage would be beneficial for his future exploration of the universe. Although he didn't have any plans to leave Earth right now, he would sooner or later start his own journey in the universe, so it was good to prepare in advance. Okay, I'll remember. I hope I can fight with you in the universe next time. A strong person like you shouldn't stay on a backward planet like Earth. He didn't know if Luonan had any masochistic tendencies, but after being educated by Rog in Tsukuyomi world, his attitude towards Rog had a clear change. Earth isn't backward. After replying to Luonan, Rog took his 4 Umbu subordinates to the 2 Carry battleships that didn't suffer any damage. Rog would give one of the Carry battleships to Jia Ying as a prop to complete the entrusted mission. As for the other battleship, he would transform it into his own personal battleship. If he wanted to start a journey in the universe, how could he not have a spaceship? But before that, he needed to adjust the battleship a bit. For example, the annoying Carry-style decoration and the operating system. After giving one of the battleships to Jia Ying, Rog received his commission reward of 120 ninja coins and the black boulder that could lead to tattooing. Before he left the afterlife, he even found an opportunity to spar with Gordon and obtained what he wanted relatively peacefully. Although Jia Ying and Gordon were dissatisfied with his approach, they didn't do anything in the end, as if nothing had happened. All things in the universe, quantum transfer. Through the omniscient nature of his right eye, Rog had successfully plundered this extremely useful teleportation ability from Gaddon. As for the name, quantum teleportation, it was just a random name he came up with. He was not a scientist, so he did not know the principle behind this teleportation ability. Therefore, he adopted a very simple naming method. When faced with indecision, quantum mechanics was the answer. Unlike the flying Thor, which required marking spells in advance, quantum teleportation did not require any prior preparation. Even if one did not know the specific situation of the teleportation location, or had never been to the teleportation location, it would not affect the quantum teleportation in any way. After some practical tests, he found that quantum teleportation was more useful than he had imagined. When teleporting over a long distance, there would be a certain amount of time before the skill was activated, but it wasn't very long and didn't cost much. If the teleportation distance was shorter, the pre-roll time would be close to 0, and the consumption would not be too high. All in all, this was a teleportation ability that did not require much from the user. Even an ordinary person would be able to use this teleportation ability without any burden. Moreover, the use of omniscient nature this time also allowed him to learn a very important piece of information. The plunder of omniscient nature was not plunder in the true sense. When he used omniscient nature on Gordon, Gordon did not completely lose the ability to teleport. He just became weaker. In Jia Ying's words, Gordon seemed to have returned to the time when he had just awakened his superpower, and he was completely unable to control it. This discovery also slightly reduced the psychological burden on Rog. After all, he was not a demon, and plundering other people's abilities for no reason would still make him feel a little guilty. The carry battleship was in his hands, the black boulder was in his hands, and the quantum teleportation was also in his hands. Rog's trip to the afterlife could be said to be a fruitful one. Before leaving the afterlife, Sky, no, she should be called Daisy now. Daisy said that she wanted to live with Jia Ying and Calvin for a while and experience the feeling of living with her parents. In this regard, Rog had no objection and waved his hand to give Daisy half a year's annual leave. After saying goodbye to Daisy, Rog and the 4 Umbu members teleported back to Konoha's headquarters. Time flies, and half a year passed in the blink of an eye. Daisy, who has officially changed her name, also took the annual leave given by Rog a few days ago and returned to Konoha. In the past 6 months, Rog did not perform any commission, nor did he exchange anything from the system. Since he plundered Gordon's quantum teleportation ability, he embarked on the path of self-development of Kekkei Genkai. Plus the 120 ninja coins obtained by Jia Ying's commission, he now has 765 ninja coins unconsumed. Originally, he planned to directly exchange a new Kekkei Genkai from the system. But after seeing the sharp increase in the price of Kekkei Genkai, he decisively gave up this idea. Does he want to kill people with big data? No way. So, he decisively embarked on the path of self-development of Kekkei Genkai. Because of physical reasons, there is no way for him to develop Kekkei Genkai such as the Byakugan or the Shikkei Genkai. However, what he wants to develop is not these Kekkei Genkai, but magnet release, lava release, and other escape-type Kekkei Genkai. Speaking of this, he has to mention the 7 attribute chakra that the system gave him in the novice gift pack. In the beginning, he just regarded the 7 attribute chakra as a prerequisite for using various ninjutsu, and he didn't have any ideas about the 7 attribute chakra. After all, compared with developing it by himself, it is undoubtedly much easier to exchange from the system. However, the system's price increase made him thoroughly see the system's evil profiteer face. Raising the price on the ground, rogue to the extreme. However, what Rog didn't expect was that the system's price increase this time was really justifiable. He already has 2 Kekkei Genkai, Sharingan and Mokuton, and his body has reached a certain extent of the capacity limit. If he can develop Hashirama's sage body to the limit, then he can indeed continue to accommodate more Kekkei Genkai. But the problem is that he doesn't. So the system increased the exchange requirement of Kekkei Genkai, not to kill people with big data, but to hint to him that he should improve his sage body as soon as possible. But obviously, Rog didn't understand the system's hint, but embarked on the road of self-development of Kekkei Genkai. This is very Rog, this is also very straight. Because straight people don't understand the hint. Chapter 265. Although he accidentally embarked on the path of developing Kekkei Genkai due to a misunderstanding, Rog still gained a lot after seriously studying the fusion of different attributes of chakra for half a year. He didn't succeed in developing Kekkei Genkai such as magnet release and lava release, but he got another good harvest. Chakra fusion energy. When fusing his different attributes of chakra, he found that his chakra has a scumbag attribute in a sense. In short, in addition to his own 7 attributes, his chakra can also fuse different energies absorbed from the outside world and transform them into the form of chakra. In order to prove this point, he deliberately used the quantum transmission ability he had just plundered to try it out. As a result, he found that his chakra can also fuse the energy of quantum transmission. Moreover, there is a tendency that it doesn't refuse. Rog doesn't know whether this is his own uniqueness that caused his chakra to become more and more abnormal, or it's because the chakra given by the system was originally set in this way. In short, his current chakra is a bit different from the chakra he imagined. In addition to chakra's ability to fuse other energies from the outside world, his other gain is that he can temporarily make his chakra possess more than 2 different attributes. Because he has 7 attributes of chakra, he didn't encounter too much difficulty when fusing chakra with different attributes. Instead, it went a bit too smoothly. As long as he wants, he can make chakra possess 2 or 3 attributes at any time. The reason why he didn't develop Kekkei Genkai such as magnet release and lava release is that he finally found that his body has reached a certain limit. It's not difficult to temporarily make chakra possess different attributes. What's difficult is that his body has no way to completely turn these different attributes of chakra into instinct, so he can use magnet release and lava release like using wood release. The system's subtle hint finally achieved its effect at this time. After understanding this, Rog did not continue the development of the bloodline limit. Instead, he shifted his focus slightly and moved the development of the immortal body up to the agenda. The development of the bloodline limit had come to an end for the time being because of his body. Instead, it was the cultivation of the immortal body, as well as the cultivation of Susanoo. The purpose of further improving the immortal body was to increase the limits of the body so that the body could contain more bloodline limits. Practicing Susanoo is to increase one's offensive and defensive means. Let's not talk about the power of Susanoo, just its appearance alone is enough to explain the problem. The cultivation of Susanoo is divided into 6 stages, that is, 6 forms. The initial form of Susanoo only had arms and ribs, and the gap between them was relatively large. It didn't completely wrap the user, and its appearance and power were also the worst. However, even in its initial form, Susanoo already has a variety of functions such as attack, defense, control, and so on, and can resist most of the attacks. It took less than a month for Rog to completely master the initial form of Susanoo. The first form after the initial form is a complete skeleton. The physical form of chakra will also completely wrap the user, and the attack and defense power will also be further improved, and some relatively simple sword weapons can also be used. Although the first form of Susanoo still doesn't look good, it already has the ability to become a trump card in battle, and it can be regarded as a good trump card. The second form after the first form, that is, the form of Susanoo that Rog has now mastered, is the form with the best balance. From this form, Susanoo can use some of the user's exclusive weapons and ninjutsu. Moreover, this form of Susanoo has the same long-range attack ninjutsu, Yasaka no Magatama. The second form of Susanoo has also finally got rid of the appearance of a skeleton. It has meridians and flesh, and the degree of completeness has been significantly improved. After mastering the second form of Susanoo, Rog intended to cultivate to the third form of Black Tengu armor in one go, which is the final form mastered by Uchiha Itachi. He wanted to see if he, who has similar Mangekyo patterns as Uchiha Itachi, and also has Tsukuyami, can have Totsuka sword and Yata mirror like Uchiha Itachi. However, Hinata's report made him temporarily dispel the idea of continuing to cultivate Susanoo. After spending half a year and a lot of manpower and material resources, Hinata completed the transformation of the Kree battleship, completely transforming it into the appearance requested by Rog. At the same time, Hinata completed the study of the Black Boulder on Tatooine. Hinata can now open the portal to Tatooine at any time through the Black Boulder, and when he needs it, she can open it again and let him return to Earth. Since obtaining the Black Boulder, Rog has been thinking about how to develop Tatooine. Although the civilization and creatures on Tatooine are completely extinct because of the Hive, it is undeniable that it is a suitable planet for human habitation. Whether it was to develop his own secret base or to do some other things on it, Tatooine had great development value. Rog hasn't decided on the specific development plan for the time being, but he doesn't mind cleaning up the Hive on it first. Rog didn't tell anyone about going to Tatooine, and no one even knew that he was leaving Earth. In the past half a year, he often stayed in the training room alone to train, and sometimes he stayed for 10 days to half a month, so Walter, Punisher, and others have long been used to not seeing him often. After taking the special tablet specially prepared by Hinata, Rog jumped into the black pool transformed from the Black Boulder and quietly left Konoha's headquarters. In just an instant, he crossed an unimaginable distance of space from Earth to Tatooine, which is located in an unknown part of the universe. The sky was gray, and the land was deathly still. After arriving at the legendary planet of Tatooine, Rog's first impression was that it was very similar to the home of the Dark Elves, Swordplay. Both were planets that had given birth to civilizations and were eventually completely lost. Both were planets that were once full of life and eventually dead. After looking at the sky and land that were completely different from Earth, Rog began to use chakra perception. After years of cultivation and improvement, his chakra perception still hasn't reached the level of sensing the entire Earth, but it has improved considerably. For example, he can sense half of the Earth. Of course, this is only the limit of the initial perception range. In the case of detailed perception, the range of perception will be greatly reduced. However, on Tatooine, which has no signs of life, he doesn't need to use detailed perception. On this planet, there is only one creature, and that is the inhuman Hive. Chapter 266. On the silent planet of Tatooine, Rog stood motionless like a statue. A 3D map appeared in his mind. As time passed, the map's range continued to expand, quickly extending beyond the horizon. There were no signs of life. Rog's perception range had already extended to hundreds of kilometers, but he still could not sense any signs of life. At this time, on Tatooine, there were only a few living plants, let alone living beings. Although he had not gained anything until now, Rog was not worried that he would not be able to find Hive. Even if he could not find it, Hive would take the initiative to find him. For Hive, who had been in a state of hunger for a long time, Rog was a delicacy that had been delivered to his door. A delicacy that could allow him to continue living, and even a chance to leave the planet. Rog's perception range continued to expand. When his perception range was about to break through 500 kilometers, he finally sensed the target he was looking for. It was completely different from the life energy he had sensed before. The life energy he sensed now was not only very weak, but it was also in a fog-like state. It was like a cloud of smoke that was constantly flying. Although the life form was very special, Rog was 100% sure that this was the first inhuman Hive in history, the legendary Hydra. Unlike other Inhumans, Hive was not human, but a collection of parasites. To him, the human body was just a container. Those hundreds of millions of parasites were his true body. This special life form not only allowed Hive to have a lifespan that far exceeded other Inhumans, but it also made him extremely difficult to deal with. When dealing with ordinary creatures, whether they were Inhumans or Creoles, as long as they caused serious damage to their bodies, they could end their lives. However, to Hive, the body was just a container. Even if the head was gone or the body was destroyed, it was just a matter of changing the container. What was even more troublesome was that when dealing with Hive, conventional weapons like swords, guns, and cannons would not be very effective. Energy attacks like lasers, fire, and lightning would be relatively effective, but they might not be able to kill all the parasites on Hive. Therefore, the best way to deal with Hive was to exile him to a space where he could not survive and use the extreme external environment to completely eliminate all the parasites. For example, outer space. However, Honeycomb was not a fool. He would not allow others to take him to outer space. Even if he could not defeat his opponent with Honeycomb's ability, if he wanted to leave, he could completely abandon his body and leave in the form of a collection of parasites. Although the hive would die without a host, no one knew how long it could survive without a host. If there was no host, the hive could still survive for another 10 to 20 years. This would greatly affect Rog's development of tattooing. Furthermore, without the fixed form of a host, who knew if the hive would split itself into several or even dozens of parts and hide somewhere else? Therefore, Rog only had one chance. If he could not get rid of the hive once and for all, the hive might evolve into an extremely troublesome sequela, an unstable factor that would greatly reduce the value of tattooing. After determining the location of the hive, Rog thought about the countermeasures for a while, and then used the quantum transmission he plundered from Gordon and teleported directly to a position only 30 meters away from the hive. When the brilliant aurora-like light of quantum transmission disappeared, Rog saw the ultimate belief that Hydra had been looking for thousands of years: the hive. At this time, Honeycomb was not as weak as he had imagined, and it could even be said that his physical condition was very good. He did not know if it was because Hydra had just fed Honeycomb not long ago, or if Honeycomb had taken good care of his body, but at this time, he looked like a healthy adult male. His face was ruddy, full of energy, and his eyes were bright. If his messy hair and beard could be trimmed, and he could take a shower and change his clothes, Honeycomb would be a physically and mentally healthy adult. While Rog was looking at Honeycomb, Honeycomb was also looking at him. After being exiled for thousands of years, especially after the extinction of the intelligent race on Tatooine, Honeycomb's concept of time has become more and more vague. After all, on such a dead planet where no one can communicate with and no hope can be seen, recording time is completely meaningless. By now, Honeycomb's concept of time has basically been simplified. Just eaten, a little hungry, hungry, very hungry, very hungry, hungry to death. So for Honeycomb, who is currently in a state of satiety, it is an incredible thing for an unexpected human to suddenly appear in front of him. Speaking of this, it is necessary to talk about Hydra's strange practice. He doesn't know what the Hydra leaders were thinking. They actually came up with the idea of drawing a lot from the organization every 10 or 20 years to send a person there. And the people who are eligible to draw lots are the senior members of the organization. From the perspective of faith, Rog can barely understand Hydra's practice. After all, in their view, this may be a supreme honor. But from an objective point of view, he feels that the Hydra senior members are all idiots who have lost their minds. Your spiritual faith, the leader you have been looking for thousands of years, is now on a strange planet. Even if you really think that Hydra is a god, a higher existence that can survive without food, can you consider sending a few more people there? What's more, Honeycomb is not the kind of higher existence that can survive without food. In the eyes of Hydra, Honeycomb is a god. But Honeycomb is really not. He is also a life, and he also needs food. Besides, send a few more people there, do a few more tests, and the possibility of finding an accurate way to return is greater. Even if it is really for faith, for glory, it is not necessary to send a person over every 10 or 20 years. The Olympics are held once every 4 years. Think about it. If you were Honeycomb, and your believers only came once every 10 or 20 years, and each time only one person, what would you think? So Rog despises the practice of Hydra's senior management. Not to mention one a year, even if it is held once every 4 years like the Olympics, Honeycomb will not be so hungry. Who are you? Are you not a tribute? He doesn't know if it's because he hasn't spoken for a long time, but Honeycomb's voice sounds a little strange, like a radio that has been out of production for many years and started broadcasting again. Chapter 267. Tribute? After hearing Hive's words, Rog froze for a moment. What's going on? The first impression I give people is that I've fallen to the level of a tribute? Rog could endure other people's mockery of his strength, And he could also endure other people's disapproval of his character. But he couldn't endure other people's contempt of his appearance. As a man who had the title of 4th Hokage and was even more handsome than the original 4th Hokage, he couldn't accept Hive's tribute evaluation. Have you ever seen a tribute as strong as me? Have you ever seen a tribute as strong and handsome as me? Have you ever seen a tribute as strong, handsome, and reliable as me? Tribute? You're the tribute. Your whole family is the tribute. After trying hard to calm his excited heart, Rog looked at Hive as if he was looking at prey. Honeycomb would never have thought that a simple sentence from him would cause Rog to have such a complicated mental state. Seeing that Rog's attitude had changed, Hive's face showed a trace of doubt. Wasn't he a tribute? When parasitizing the host, Hive could obtain the host's memory. But under normal circumstances, he wouldn't do this. Because searching the host's memory was meaningless to him. Whether he searched the host's memory or not, it couldn't help him leave this damn planet. And every time he searched the host's memory, it would consume a part of his energy. For Hive, who hadn't eaten a full meal for thousands of years, every bit of energy was extremely precious. So over time, he lost interest in searching the host's memory. But now, he suddenly had the urge to search the current host's memory. This host had just parasitized for a short time, and the energy in his body was enough for him to consume for a long time. More importantly, he now had a backup host. Although he didn't know who Rog was, and he didn't know what kind of ability Rog had. But the first time he saw Rog, Hive had a very strong intuition. This is the right host for me. This is the host I want. This is the perfect host for me. Hive didn't know why he had such an intuition, but he was sure that his intuition was right. Unknowingly, the atmosphere became a little strange. Rog scanned Honeycomb's body, and Honeycomb scanned Rog's body. If it weren't for the inappropriate surroundings, it would have been easy to misunderstand that Rogue and Honeycomb were looking at each other with a gaze that went beyond friendship. Do you have any last words? Give me your body. After a few minutes of silence, Rog and Honeycomb spoke at the same time. Looks like you don't have any last words. Looks like you don't intend to give me your body. After pausing for a few seconds, Rog and Honeycomb spoke again at the same time. This damn tacit understanding. After the two of them spoke at the same time, Rog and Honeycomb gave up on the idea of continuing the conversation. Instead, they looked at each other seriously. Although Honeycomb didn't understand Rog, after carefully sensing Rog, his face showed a look of victory. Mutants. This guy is a mutant. Although it was different from the mutants he had sensed before, he definitely wouldn't mistake this special mutant energy. To others, mutants didn't have any particularly obvious energy characteristics. But to Honeycomb, every mutant had a unique form of energy that proved their identity as a mutant. Among all the mutants that had been modified by the Kree's Terrigen experiment, Honeycomb was definitely the most special one. Not to mention that his life form had undergone fundamental changes. Just his ability to control all mutants was enough to prove this point. In the Kree's Terrigen experiment, the other mutants were powerful mutant warriors, and Honeycomb was the leader of these mutant warriors. Therefore, Honeycomb was born with the ability to control other mutants, and it was absolute control, and there was no way to resist control. However, no one would have thought that Honeycomb, who was set as the leader of the mutants from the beginning, would be exiled to Tatooine by the Kree before he could enjoy his days as a leader. Since he was a mutant, it would be easy to deal with him. Although Honeycomb had sworn that he would never parasitize a mutant. But now, he was going to betray his oath. After all, compared to Rog's body, the oath wasn't very important. Just when Honeycomb was looking at him with a malicious look, Rog silently took out the reality Rubik's Cube. In order to deal with Honeycomb, who was a collection of parasites, he had thought of many plans and seriously studied the feasibility and practical effect of the plan. After thinking about it repeatedly, he had to admit a fact. Dealing with Honeycomb wasn't difficult for him. However, if he wanted to deal with Honeycomb quickly and cleanly without leaving any side effects, he didn't have many options. Among the few options available, using the reality gem was the simplest and most crude method that could guarantee the effects. Therefore, as a ninja who yearns for glory and battle, he decisively made the final choice. Reality gem. Simple and direct, end all troubles. Just one time, and all future troubles can be eliminated. After Rog took out the dark red reality Rubik's Cube, Honeycomb's innate crisis instinct issued an unprecedented warning. This strong warning that almost occupied his entire consciousness instantly interrupted Honeycomb's beautiful fantasy of Rog's body. Honeycomb didn't know why he had such a strong warning, but as an old monster who had lived for thousands of years, he unconditionally trusted his crisis instinct. Without any hesitation, it could even be said that he was extremely determined. Honeycomb instantly turned into a cloud of black fog, flying in all directions like locusts. Things like host and parasitism were completely out of his consideration now. However, he was still a step too late. The reality Rubik's Cube in Rog's right hand flashed with a dark red light that wasn't dazzling but strange enough, and the surrounding space instantly changed. The originally unobstructed space turned into an enchantment. Space barrier. Using the reality Rubik's Cube, Rog created a spherical space barrier with a diameter of 100 meters, completely enveloping Honeycomb. Preventing Honeycomb from leaving in the form of his body was just the first step of the plan. When the spherical space that even the tiniest atom couldn't pass through was formed, Rog began to further compress this huge spherical space with a diameter of 100 meters. The black fog-like body of Honeycomb was constantly driven back to the host's body. Although the body of Honeycomb was driven back to the host, Rog still didn't stop compressing the space. In the end, a spherical space mixed with Honeycomb's body parasites and human flesh floated in the air. From the initial diameter of 100 meters to the size of a basketball. All of this happened in just a few seconds. After being completely trapped in this extremely crowded spherical space, Honeycomb finally understood why his instincts were giving him such a strong warning. This guy is ridiculously strong. Honeycomb, who had never seen an infinity stone, regarded the ability of the reality gem as Rog's own ability. Chapter 268. If Hive's vigilance was just a little bit higher, for example, he would have chosen to run away the moment he saw Rog. In that case, he might still have a sliver of a chance to survive. Unfortunately, thousands of years of exile had caused him to lose the vigilance that he should have. Hive, who was completely wrapped in the spherical space, didn't completely despair at this time. Although he didn't know what Rog was going to do next, he was confident in his ability to survive. It's nothing more than a change in the place where I'm imprisoned, this won't scare me. After looking at the disgusting sphere floating in front of him, Rog once again activated the reality cube. The reality gem does have the ability to modify reality, but to maintain the modified reality, it also needs a constant supply of energy. Rog wasn't a Kree, and he didn't plan to exile or imprison Hive. Killing Beehive was his real goal. Using a completely enclosed spherical space to completely trap Hive was only the first step of the plan. The reality cube in Rog's hand once again shone with a strange dark red light, and a half-meter wide circular portal appeared in front of him. Using the reality cube, Rog built an interstellar portal that was opened by the cosmic cube during the Battle of New York. Compared to the portal built by the cosmic cube, the portal built by the reality gem was much smaller and less stable. But Rog didn't care much about this. What he needed now was a one-time teleportation portal that could connect to outer space. Whether it was stable or safe, he didn't care at all. When the half-meter wide portal was completely formed, Hive, who was trapped in the spherical space, finally realized something. This guy didn't want to imprison me. After realizing this, Hive in the spherical space began to surge wildly, trying to find an escape that didn't exist. Hive's survival ability was indeed very strong, and he could safely survive in places where most creatures couldn't survive. But this didn't mean that he could survive in any environment. Vacuum, or outer space, was an environment where he absolutely couldn't survive. I've already asked if you have any last words, so this time, I'll just say goodbye. As soon as his voice fell, the right hand formed by chakra grabbed the floating spherical space and through this spherical space mixed with human flesh, clothes, and the parasites of the Hive into the portal that had just been constructed. The basketball-sized spherical space drew a beautiful arc in the air and then fell directly into the portal. Perfect hit. When the spherical space passed through the portal and entered an unknown place in outer space, Rog ended the maintenance of the portal. The portal that emitted a faint blue light disappeared as if it never appeared. After the portal closed, Rog was forced to end the maintenance of the spherical space. The terrifying distance in space increased the energy required to maintain the spherical space. As a meticulous person, and in order to kill the hive as soon as possible, Rog cut off the energy supply without hesitation. Without a continuous supply of energy, the spherical space that violated the laws of nature could not continue to exist. So, in a corner of the universe, the basketball-sized spherical space shattered with a bang. The human remains and the hive itself in the space welcomed the warm welcome of the outer space environment. Rog had no interest in what would happen to the hive in outer space in the vacuum environment. At this time, he summoned the tablet specially modified by Hinata from the summon scroll. The black boulder can open the space channel connected to the planet Tatooine, but because the planet Tatooine is constantly rotating, the location of the space channel is different every time. So to ensure that he can return to Earth smoothly, Rog asked Hinata to perform a series of preliminary experiments and calculations to calculate the time and place of each opening of the space channel. The tablet in his hand recorded the corresponding opening time and channel. According to his request, Hinata at the Konoha headquarters will open the space channel every hour, and each opening will last for 3 minutes. It has now been more than half an hour since he came to Tatooine, so he has to rush to the next opening location of the channel in the remaining 20 minutes. Quantum transmission. At this time, Rog once again thanked Gordon for his free quantum transmission ability. After more than 20 minutes, Rog, who easily solved the problem of the hive, returned to Earth. Hinata, we can now start the second phase of the Tatooine plan. After returning to the Konoha headquarters, Rog gave the latest order to Hinata. Although he hasn't yet figured out how to develop Tatooine, this doesn't prevent him from making some preparations in advance. Okay. The steel engineering team and construction materials of the Tatooine Hidden Village have been arranged. In a month, the initial establishment of Konoha Hidden Village will be completed. Under the control of Hinata, robots of different shapes were activated, and boxes of packed construction materials were continuously sent into the transmission channel built by the Black Boulder. Rog didn't tell anyone about the establishment of Konoha Hidden Village on Tatooine. In the entire Konoha, only he and Hinata know about the existence of this plan. In order to keep it a secret, he didn't use anyone except Hinata. Even the construction robots were redesigned and specially produced by Hinata according to the design principles of Ultron and Mark III. Construction materials were purchased in the name of Konoha, and there was no need to hide these common construction materials. Even if someone found out that Konoha had purchased a large number of construction materials, it was impossible to know that Rog was secretly building Konoha Hidden Village on Tatooine. While Hinata was secretly building the Konoha Hidden Village, Rog was also continuing to practice his Susanoo, hoping that he could reach the third form of the Black Tengu armor as soon as possible. However, his cultivation plan was soon interrupted again. According to the feedback of Konoha's intelligence department, an alien life form that he listed as a key observation target was suspected to have appeared in San Francisco, and it caused a certain amount of damage in San Francisco. Konoha's special operations team in San Francisco has set off at this time, but they haven't captured the alien life form that caused the riot. In the past 6 months, there have been more and more riots caused by this kind of suspected superpower or special life form. If the Battle of New York made people all over the world know that there are many special people in this world that are unknown to people, then the sole incident caused by Ultron is equivalent to completely opening the stage of this kind of special event. All kinds of superpower criminals and illogical events happened one after another. Even those criminals who only want to rob and bully ordinary people on weekdays have embarked on a different path of upgrading. Chapter 269. Under normal circumstances, the riots caused by this kind of special event would not be reported to Rog, but would be handled by Konoha's special operations team. However, Rog once reminded the intelligence department that once the special event he mentioned was discovered, he must be notified as soon as possible. So this time, the riot caused by a suspected alien life form in San Francisco was directly reported to him. There weren't many special events that Rog could specifically request attention to. Up until now, there had only been two. One was an alien life form that was suspected to have the ability to change its form, and the other was a skeleton with flames all over its body. Of course, this was only a general description of the intelligence department. What he really wanted to pay attention to was actually Venom and Ghost Rider. However, he couldn't tell the intelligence department about Venom and Ghost Rider, so he could only let them pay attention to similar events. San Francisco, alien life form. If there was no accident, this should be the Venom he had been waiting for a long time. Or rather, a symbiote. Because of him, the timeline of this world has become more and more different from what he remembered, and he wasn't even sure if the people and events in his memory would still happen. After carefully browsing the information submitted by the intelligence department in his office, Rog put this special event in San Francisco under his name. At present, there were only a few people in Konoha who were qualified to lead a team to solve special events. Punisher and Abomination were his earliest subordinates, and now they were the main force of external operations. Gecko Kara and Daisy would also deal with some tasks that were not so difficult. Kurenai Tank didn't admit that he was a member of Konoha yet, but he was basically willing to do the tasks assigned to him. As for Pietro and Walter, Rog didn't list them as operatives at first. However, Pietro, who couldn't stay idle, took the initiative to apply to join the operations department and now became a captain of the operations department. After 6 months of hard work and constant appearances, Pietro finally got his own title. Konoha Quicksilver. Although this title didn't sound as good as Konoha's White Fang, it was still a good title. Walter also went on several missions with Quicksilver, but they were all ordinary missions that weren't very difficult. Perhaps it was because of Walter's personality, but he wasn't very interested in fighting and didn't use his superpowers as often as Pietro did. Walter's decision made Rog feel much more at ease. Walter's ability was indeed very strong. At its peak, it could even surpass the reality gem. However, the greater the power, the greater the possibility of losing control. Rog didn't want Walter to say that there were no more superpowers in Konoha. After putting the incident in San Francisco under his own name, others would not intervene in it, unless Rog couldn't handle it or took the initiative to ask for help. After reading all the information collected by the intelligence department, Rog set off directly. Through the surveillance video at the scene of the riot, as well as the videos taken by the onlookers, he could basically confirm that the ones who were currently jumping around and causing riots in San Francisco were the symbiotic demons. As for whether this symbiotic body was Venom, further confirmation was needed. After all, symbiotic demons looked similar, especially when they were of the same color. They gave off the feeling that they were twins. Quantum teleportation. A brilliant aurora-like light appeared, and then Rog's figure completely disappeared. At the same time, an equally brilliant light appeared on the top floor of a certain building in San Francisco. Once again, he had to thank Gordon for his selfless contribution. He had to admit that Gordon's quantum teleportation ability was really useful. Although it was far inferior to flying Thor in battle, it was very useful for long-distance teleportation. San Francisco was a world-famous tourist destination. It was one of the most important high-tech R&D bases in the world and the most important financial center on the west coast of America. The population here wasn't as terrifying as New York, but it was still shocking. There were almost 1 million people living in San Francisco. It wasn't easy to find a person who was possessed by a symbiotic demon but hadn't transformed. Rog wasn't interested in sensing them one by one, so he adopted a very simple method: wait. From the current situation, the symbiotic demon was clearly looking for something. At the same time, the symbiotic demon was being hunted by an unknown organization. In Rog's memory, it was the Life Foundation next to the Golden Gate Bridge that brought the symbiotic demon to Earth. However, this was just his previous memory. After knowing that there was a Life Foundation in San Francisco, he asked Konoha's intelligence department to pay attention to this foundation. In particular, they paid attention to the Life Foundation's spaceship launch plan. Unfortunately, this Life Foundation had no interest in life outside the Earth, nor did it have any intention of exploring the stars. Therefore, this symbiotic demon incident really had nothing to do with the Life Foundation. After admiring the environment of San Francisco from a condescending position, Rog took out a pair of sunglasses and put them on. From the outside, this is a pair of ordinary sunglasses. At most, it looks a bit expensive. But in fact, this is a pair of sunglasses specially modified by Hinata. Through this pair of glasses, Rog can contact Hinata at Konoha's headquarters at any time. The lenses can also present real-time virtual interactive images, making it convenient for him to browse various documents and information sent by Hinata at any time. Obviously, this idea was based on the smart glasses Edith that Tani hasn't designed yet, but will design sooner or later. After putting on the glasses, Rog directly teleported from the top floor of the building to the alley next to it, and then strolled in the streets like a tourist. The symbiotic demon suspected to be Venom is hiding somewhere, but he will definitely appear again. When he appears again, it will be time for Rog to make his move. While strolling, Rog didn't stay idle and asked Hinata to investigate all the information about Eddie Block. The emergence of the symbiotic demon may have nothing to do with the Life Foundation, but one thing will not change, that is, the fate of the host. As long as the fate of the host does not change dramatically, some things are destined to happen. For example, Tani will become a superhero, or Eddie Block will become the new host of Venom. Currently, Hinata has partial authority from the military, the Ministry of Defense, and other departments. These authorities were specifically authorized to Konoha's Intelligence Bureau by the military, the Ministry of Defense, and other departments. In addition to Hinata, Konoha's Intelligence Bureau occasionally uses these special authorities. It didn't take long, to be precise, less than 30 seconds, all the information about Eddie Block appeared in the lenses of the glasses. Chapter 270. Eddie Brock, who previously worked for the New York Daily Globe, was a somewhat famous reporter. Because of an unconfirmed false report, he lost his job and reputation, was labeled as unreliable, and was ostracized by his peers in New York. In order to bid farewell to the past and to get his life back on track, Eddie Brock moved from New York to San Francisco and became a field reporter for the local news channel in San Francisco. With his excellent professionalism, Eddie quickly gained a foothold in San Francisco and even had his own news column. Simply put, Eddie Brock is a mature man who has experienced a low point in his life and relied on his own efforts to regain his honor. Except for a major professional accident in New York, there is nothing abnormal in Eddie Brock's life record, and he doesn't even have many parking tickets. If you only look at this information, it would be difficult for Rog to associate Eddie Brock with Venom. Although from the information, Eddie Brock doesn't seem to be the kind of person who would commit crimes with extraordinary powers, Rog still insists on his own opinion. If the symbiote that caused the riots in San Francisco is really Venom, then the host of Venom must be Eddie Brock. Because this is the fate of Eddie Brock. Investigate Eddie Brock's whereabouts in the past few days. I want to know what he has been doing in the past few days. After issuing the latest instructions to Hinata, Rog turned off the virtual projection on the lens and began to wander around the streets and alleys of San Francisco like a real tourist. Taste the signature dishes of famous restaurants, enjoy the scenery of famous scenic spots, and respond to fans' requests for photos. If it weren't for the fact that he would occasionally perceive the special life forms nearby while wandering, Rog would look no different from a real tourist at this time. And in the process of wandering, he realized for the first time that being too famous was not a good thing. Although he has rarely performed tasks in public as the fourth Hokage recently, even so, it has not reduced his popularity among the people. After signing nearly 100 signatures and enduring more than a dozen female fans with hot figures and hot personalities, he finally dispelled the idea of wandering around with his real face. At night, the Golden Gate Bridge. Rog, who changed his appearance with the transformation technique, stood at the top of the bridge, overlooking downtown San Francisco. By hacking into San Francisco's city surveillance system and the various surveillance cameras on the road that can be connected to the internet, Hinata sorted out the specific whereabouts of Eddie Block in the past few days. Although the scene of the symbiotic demon's transformation was not captured by the surveillance camera, It was basically certain that the host inside the symbiotic demon was Eddie Brock. Now that he had confirmed that the host was Eddie Brock, the identity of the symbiotic entity was obvious. Venom. Venom claimed to be the loser of the symbiotic demons, but it had the power to contend against the leader-level Riot. The identity of the symbiote and the host has been confirmed, but Hinata did not investigate which organization appeared to be capturing Venom. The weapons and equipment used by the captors were not common goods commonly seen on the market. It could even be said that these weapons and equipment were custom-made products. Not only that, but Hinata also discovered that the weapons and equipment used by these captors had never appeared in any country before. In addition to the custom-made weapons and equipment, the combat accomplishments shown by the captors were also amazing. Even compared with Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s action teams, there was no obvious gap between these captors. Custom-made weapons and equipment, excellent capture teams, these all prove one thing, that is, the organization that is now targeting Venom is not a third-rate character. A mysterious organization with good research and development capabilities and excellent operations personnel. Rog began to be interested in this mysterious organization. Based on what he had always done, any organization that piqued his interest usually didn't have a good ending. Rog had just given Hinata an order to continue investigating this mysterious organization when a strong explosion occurred in downtown San Francisco not far from him. The flames of the explosion rose into the sky, like a small mushroom cloud standing in the bustling city. As soon as the strong explosion came, Rog directly teleported to the street where the explosion occurred through quantum transmission. The originally lively street was now a mess as if it had been through a long war. Broken windows, burning vehicles, crumbling houses. Just looking at the scene in front of him, it was impossible to believe that this would be downtown San Francisco. The streets were filled with pedestrians who had been affected by the explosion. Around these injured or dead pedestrians, there were many combatants in black uniforms and combat helmets. Rog ignored the captors of these mysterious organizations and quickly scanned every corner of the street. It didn't take long for him to find the target he was looking for in a broken ruin. A humanoid black body, a mouth full of sharp teeth, and a pair of iconic big white eyes. Rog's gaze had just focused on Venom when Venom, who was pressed under the brick, felt something and looked up at Rog. The moment he saw Rog, Venom seemed to have seen an indescribable horror. His big white eyes suddenly shrank, and then he jumped up and ran wildly without looking back. What's going on? Venom's abnormal behavior stunned Rog. Although he didn't know why Venom was so scared, Rog had no intention of letting him go easily. Venom, who was nearly 3 meters tall, used both hands and feet to run wildly on the streets of San Francisco like a beast. Venom, what's wrong? As the host, Eddie Brock asked quickly. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation. The person behind us is very dangerous. Venom, who was running wildly, replied with a serious tone. The person behind us? There is no one behind us. Eddie Brock just wanted to continue asking when he saw Rog in front of them. Although it was Venom who was controlling his body now, this did not affect him from using Venom's senses to observe the outside world. Venom's running speed was not slow, but it was undoubtedly a pipe dream if he wanted to get rid of Rog. After using Lightning Body Blink a few times, Rog easily overtook Venom and blocked Venom's path in advance. Fire Release, Grand Fireball. Without any hesitation, Rog directly spewed out a huge fireball with a diameter of more than 3 meters. The huge orange-red fireball flew towards Venom like a cannonball. Chapter 271. For a long time, Fire Release has been described as smokeless and can't burn people to death. However, this situation will never happen to Rog. Although he didn't count carefully, the number of people who died under his Fire Release attack is not small. Among them are many Warnerheim Protoss warriors whose physique is far beyond that of the Earth's humans. Seeing the huge fireball with a diameter of 3 meters coming towards him like a cannonball, Venom quickly began to change direction. This level of fire attack, not to mention Venom himself, is afraid of fire attacks. Even if he doesn't have the weakness of fire, He doesn't intend to use his body to resist the fireball. Venom's limbs suddenly exerted force, and his whole body jumped high like a flea, trying to directly avoid the oncoming fireball. However, Rog's attack is not so easy to avoid. Under normal circumstances, Grand Fireball can only be used in a straight line attack, and it is very easy to avoid. This is why fire release ninjutsu is underestimated. Ninjutsu that can't hit the target, or ninjutsu that can be easily avoided, is a ninjutsu that has no practical value. Therefore, in order not to waste the ninjutsu he used to exchange for Grand Fireball, Rog made some improvements to the Grand Fireball jutsu. The Grand Fireball jutsu is indeed not much of a threat. But what if the Grand Fireball can change its trajectory? In order to change the trajectory of the Grand Fireball, Rog borrowed some of the techniques of Fire Dragon Bomb. Chakra can control the direction of the Fire Dragon Bomb, making it extremely difficult to avoid. Since the Fire Dragon Bomb can do this under Chakra's control, then Grand Fireball naturally has this possibility. After a series of tests and practical operations, Rog successfully mastered the method of controlling Grand Fireball with Chakra. Venom, who jumped high, just breathed a sigh of relief. Then he saw the huge fireball that should have continued to fly forward suddenly change direction and flew straight towards him in the air. But the air is not the ground, there is no place to borrow strength here. Although the sudden change of direction completely disrupted Venom's rhythm, Venom still didn't give up. Venom's hands shot out a black spiderweb-like substance that flew like lightning towards the houses on both sides of the road. As long as a black spider silk sticks to the house, Venom can swing out of here like Spider-Woman Gwen. Venom's response wasn't wrong, but he underestimated the flying speed of the fireball and overestimated the speed of the black spider silk. Boom! Venom's hands had just shot out black spider silk when the huge fireball hit him like a heavy truck, and the orange-red flames instantly engulfed his entire body. Although the temperature of the Grand Fireball is not very amazing, it is completely enough for Venom, whose weakness is flames. Venom, who was engulfed by the orange-red flames, fell heavily to the ground. His whole body rolled crazily as if he had lost his mind. Relying on his Sharingan, Rog can clearly see that Venom's black body is rapidly shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. If the flame lasts a little longer, Venom will completely change back to Eddie Brock's appearance. But fortunately, the flame of the Grand Fireball only lasted for 2 or 3 seconds before it ended. When the orange-red flames completely dissipated, Venom seemed to have successfully lost weight, shrinking from nearly 3 meters to about 2.5 meters. In addition to the obvious change in his body shape, Venom's spirit seems to have suffered serious damage. He knelt on the ground weakly, sticking out his long tongue and gasping for breath. For some reason, looking at Venom's current appearance, Rog suddenly felt a little unbearable. However, he quickly threw these thoughts to the back of his mind. Although Venom looks miserable now, with his healing ability, it won't take long for him to recover completely. Rapid recovery and regeneration are as simple as breathing for the symbiotic demons. Sure enough, within a few seconds, Venom, who was kneeling on the ground, began to expand rapidly, expanding back to his previous 3-meter-high appearance. Do you want to fight here and then talk? Or should we skip the fight? Rog came to Venom and asked in a calm tone. He didn't intend to kill Venom. If he wanted to kill Venom, he didn't need to do it himself. The reason why he came to San Francisco was that he had some deals to discuss with Venom. For you, I never talk to guys who pretend to be other people. Although Venom couldn't see through Rog's transformation technique, he was sure that Rog had used some kind of mysterious disguise. This is not a special ability, it is purely an intuition that he has obtained after living for a long time and experiencing too many things. My name is Rog. If you like, you can call me Yandame Hokage. Rog directly reported his identity, but he did not remove the effect of the transformation technique. After hearing Rog's reply, Venom did not answer immediately, but began to search the memory of the host. Whether it was Rog or Yandame Hokage. For Venom, who had just arrived on Earth and was inexplicably hunted as soon as he arrived, they were all completely unfamiliar existences. After roughly figuring out the identity of Rog through the memory of the host, Venom gave his answer. Where are we going to talk? Of course, we are going to the hotel to talk. As soon as the voice fell, the light of quantum transmission emerged from Rog's body and then completely enveloped Venom. After the brilliant aurora-like light disappeared, the figures of Rog and Venom also disappeared completely. Then a luxurious hotel suite appeared in front of them. This suite was specially reserved by Rog during the day. After looking around the environment in the suite, Venom went directly to the sofa in the living room and lay down directly. The black Venom on the white sofa. Although Venom's image and movements were a bit dazzling, Rog didn't say anything about it. You can't use Earth's etiquette to ask an alien creature, it's unreasonable. Boom. When Venom lay on the sofa like a master, Rog also lifted the effect of the transformation technique, revealing his true face. I want to know, how did you come to Earth? Did you come here alone, or did you come with your own kind? In addition, how can I find your symbiote? It's just a symbiote, Rog is not interested in it. But if it's a group of symbiotes or thousands of symbiotes, it's different. Chapter 272. You want to capture the symbiotic demons? Venom did not directly answer Rog's question and asked with interest. Isn't this obvious? Not to mention that the symbiotic demons can greatly increase the host's strength. Just the peculiar life form of the symbiotic demons is enough to make people interested. Rog was not surprised that Venom could see through his plan at a glance. Although Venom said that he was the loser of the symbiotic demons and was the weakest existence among the symbiotic demons. But this was just him being modest. How can a guy who can make a name for himself in his race be a real loser? A real loser can't have the popularity of Venom at all. And how can the weakest guy in a race have the power to compete with a commander? Strength is status. The more strength you have, the higher your status. No matter what race, this is a common standard. Why should I help you? Anyway, they are my kind, I don't think I need to help you. Venom, who was lying on the sofa, carefully looked at Rog and said silently. If it is under normal circumstances, you really don't need to help me, but unfortunately, it is not normal now. After speaking, Rog paused for a moment and then continued. After experiencing the events of the past few days, you should also be very clear that you are now being watched. Judging from the weapons and equipment they use, the people who are now capturing you have enough understanding of the symbiotic demons. Although you can still jump around, you are only one person after all. Even if you can hold on, your host may not be able to hold on. If my perception is not wrong, your current state is not very ideal. With your current situation, how many times do you think you can escape capture? Once, twice, or 3 times? Symbiotic demons have amazing regeneration and repair abilities. Even if it is a broken limb, or even a fatal injury, the symbiotic demons can recover to normal in a short time. It's just that this world is a reasonable world. If you want to get something, you must pay something. There was nothing that could be obtained without paying a price. Even the Infinity Stone that can change the laws of the universe is the same. The symbiotic demons did indeed possess astonishing regeneration and repair abilities, but this regeneration and repair ability was not obtained out of thin air. Although Rog did not know what method the symbiotic demons used to complete their regeneration and repair, there was one thing he was certain of. There was a limit to the regeneration and repair of the symbiotic demons, and a certain price had to be paid. After comparing the life energy intensity of Venom before and after being attacked by the fireball, he was even more convinced of this point. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would betray my own kind for my own safety? Venom snorted in disdain. Do you think you're the kind of person who would sacrifice yourself to protect your own kind? Rog asked. The atmosphere in the room began to become a little awkward. After 2 or 3 minutes of silence, Venom spoke again. First, I came to Earth through a meteorite. Secondly, apart from me, there are 3 other guys who came to Earth with me. They are Howl, Fear, and Rip. Thirdly, those 3 unlucky fellows have already been captured. If you want to find them, you can only look for the people who captured them. If you want to find more symbiotic demons, you can only go to the universe to find our home planet. The home planet is the only planet where we can live normally without possession. As for the specific location of the home planet, I don't know. Venom answered the 3 questions raised by Rog at the beginning, and then fell silent again. After listening to Venom's answer, Rog frowned slightly. Excluding Venom, there are only 3 symbiotic demons, which is a lot less than he thought. This number is a bit far from the symbiotic demon army he wants, very far. You can only live freely without possession on the home planet, then how did the 4 of you survive on the meteorite? Rog asked his doubts. The meteorite was a stone on the home planet. Howl and I were discussing something on the stone, and an inexplicable space channel appeared around us and sucked us in with the stone. Then we were near the Earth, sucked in by the Earth's gravity, and finally came to the Earth. Venom briefly explained the ins and outs of the matter. From his tone, it can be heard that he was also speechless about his experience. But this is also understandable. Think about it, if you stay at home and are inexplicably teleported to a completely unfamiliar planet, your mood will also become very bad. An unexpected disaster. Venom and the other 3 used their own personal experience to prove what is called bad luck. Excuse me for asking, how big is that stone, and the 4 of you are not all men, right? From the names, Venom, Howl, Fear, and Tear are all typical male names. As far as Rog knows, the reproduction of the symbiotic demons seems to be asexual, so he is a little curious about why the 4 of them appeared on the same stone. Put away your strange thoughts. We are different from humans. We don't have your strange hobbies and primitive reproduction methods. In the following time, Rog asked some questions about the symbiotic demons and the symbiotic demon's mother planet. If he remembers correctly, on the symbiotic demon's mother planet, there is a fierce man who cut off the head of a member of the Kagami group with a sword. The god of symbiotic demons, Nar. Of course, when mentioning the god of symbiotic demons, he has to mention his famous sword, the Black Death Sword. He doesn't know if the Black Death Sword is now in the hands of the God Slayer. If there is a chance in the future, he can inquire about the relevant information. After reaching the initial cooperation agreement with Venom, Rog used quantum transmission to bring Venom back to Konoha's headquarters. Before the mysterious arrest organization is solved, Venom will live in Konoha's headquarters for a while. Konoha will protect Venom's safety, and Venom will provide the information Rog wants. After arriving at Konoha's headquarters, Venom removed his transformation form and returned control of his body to Eddie. After arranging a room for Eddie and Venom to live in, Rog returned to his office and issued the latest order to the intelligence department. Search for the mysterious organization that captured the symbiotic demons. According to Venom, they were teleported to the outside of the Earth by an inexplicable space channel. But Rog always felt that things were not that simple. The reason is simple: the weapons and equipment used by the mysterious organization are a bit wrong. Chapter 273. The time doesn't match. Although the weapons and equipment used by the mysterious organization during the capture were not particularly high-tech, it was not something that could be designed and produced in a short period of time. According to Venom, they had only been on Earth for a few days, and not long after they landed on Earth, they were captured by the mysterious organization. Combined with these circumstances, it was not difficult to infer that this mysterious organization knew about the existence of the symbiotic demons early on and knew when the symbiotic demons would come to Earth. Therefore, Venom and the others, who inexplicably came to Earth, encountered such a professional capture team. There are only 2 possibilities for the mysterious organization to arrange the plan to this extent. One is that they can predict the future. The other is that the bizarre encounter of Venom and the others was planned by them. Rog first ruled out the possibility that the mysterious organization could predict the future. Predicting the future, this is a super advanced power that involves time. Unless this mysterious organization has mastered the Time Stone and mastered the correct use of the Time Stone, it is impossible for them to have the ability to predict the future. If this mysterious organization really has the ability to predict the future, they would not have the idea of the symbiotic demons. Compared with the ability to predict the future and time, the symbiotic demons are obviously several levels lower. If it is not the ability to predict the future, then there is only the second possibility. This mysterious organization single-handedly planned the appearance of Venom and the others and forcibly brought them from the symbiotic demon's mother planet to Earth. Of course, the mysterious organization may not know the identity of Venom and the others. For them, this is similar to fishing in the sea. They can catch whatever they want. It's just that Venom and the others had bad luck and were caught by the mysterious organization. Although this will involve the problem of space channels. However, compared with predicting the future, space channels and so on are obviously much easier and more realistic. Under the full search of Konoha's intelligence department, this mysterious organization that has never appeared in the past finally revealed some clues. Because of time, although Konoha's intelligence department did not fully grasp all the information of this mysterious organization, they still dug out a lot of valuable information from it. After a series of investigations, Konoha's intelligence department found that this emerging mysterious organization was inextricably linked to Oscorp. Whether it is the weapons and equipment used by the mysterious organization or the secret base used by the mysterious organization to hide their whereabouts, they are more or less related to Oscorp. After reading the information collected by the intelligence department in the past few days, Rog found that the symbiotic demon's incident this time seemed to be a little more complicated than he thought. After the incident with the rhinoceros and the electric man, he thought that Oscorp would behave as a business giant and dispel the idea of extraordinary power. But now, it seems that Oscorp is not willing to be an ordinary normal company. Oscorp's main research field is in the field of biotechnology, and symbiotes are special life forms with superpowers. It can be said that the symbiotic demons of Oscorp's dreams. In this case, Oscorp's D of the symbiotic demons of T of the mysterious organization. Although the relationship between the mysterious organization and Oscorp has not yet been fully determined, Roger has decided to go to Oscorp in person. Come to think of it, Oscorp is also his old rival. No, it's not an opponent, it's an old helper. Whether it's Dr. Connor's Super Lizard Serum or Gavin's Super Spider Serum, Oscorp has helped a lot and can be regarded as a great contribution. In particular, Oscorp's electric demon selflessly contributed himself, allowing him to develop several good lightning ninjutsu. After reading the information submitted by the intelligence department, Rog teleported to the public training hall of the headquarters and found Venom, who was wrestling with Abomination. He didn't know how Venom saw Abomination. Since Eddie met Abomination by chance a few days ago, Venom had a great interest in Abomination. In the past few days at Konoha's headquarters, Venom was basically online 24 hours a day, not giving Eddie any private time at all. After Venom took control of his body, he didn't do anything strange, he just inexplicably fought with Abomination. Compared with Abomination, 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 except for not competing with Abomination in terms of fire resistance, high temperature resistance, and resistance to sonic attacks, Venom basically has to compete with Abomination in everything. If he wasn't sure that Venom had no intention of changing hosts, Rog couldn't help but wonder if Venom intended to let Abomination be his host. Speaking of which, it was strange. The Abomination, whose appearance and body were equally shocking, had an unusual and powerful attraction to those with long tongues. Perhaps he had chosen the wrong charm point, but he had a strong attraction to those with long tongues. Dr. Connors is like this, and so is Venom. Do creatures with long tongues like big green guys? Just as Rog's imagination was running wild, Venom and Abomination also decided the winner of the arm wrestle. Although Venom's strength is good, compared to Abomination, especially compared to Abomination who has been strengthened by extremists, his strength is still a little weak. Stop playing, it's time to go out and work. Coming to Venom and Abomination, Rog looked up and said to Venom. Although a little reluctant, Venom temporarily dispelled the idea of continuing to compete with Abomination. His long tongue danced towards Abomination a few times before he followed Rog out of the training hall. Through quantum transmission, Rog and Venom came to the top floor of a building opposite the Oscorp building. The person who arrested you before had something to do with Oscorp, but it is not certain whether it was the arrest team sent by Oscorp. So I'm going to let you meet the people of Oscorp and see what their reaction is? Rog's plan is very simple. In a word, it is to deliver the goods to the door and lure the snake out of its hole. Deliver the venom that Oscorp is interested in to the door, and then formulate the next step according to Oscorp's reaction. Are you sure this will be useful? If I really fall into their hands, will you come to save me? Venom has only fought with Rog once, the time when he was hit by Fireball. But before he fought, he already knew that Rog was a dangerous existence that he couldn't afford to provoke. This was also the reason why he ran away when he saw Rog. It's still during the cooperation period. I will guarantee your life and safety. You can rest assured about this. Although Venom looked like a ferocious monster and had the habit of biting off the enemy's head, he was a very cautious person, just like Roger. Especially when it comes to his own life. Chapter 274. If I am caught, you must come and save me. Before leaving, Venom once again reminded Rog. Go, you're a big man, why are you still so timid? He doesn't know if the previous arrest operation left a psychological shadow on Venom, or if he is this cautious character. Rog always felt that the Venom in front of him was completely different from the Venom in his memory. The Venom in his memory was a fearless guy. Even if it was a leader-level riot, he would still fight. Even if his physical fitness is not as good as the riot, he has no fear. After getting a positive answer from Rog again, Venom was still not at ease. He looked back 3 times and kept turning his head to look at Rog behind him. When Rog's patience was about to run out, Venom, who was nearly 3 meters tall, finally showed a domineering aura that matched his image. Like a hunter preying on his prey, he jumped directly to the Oscorp building dozens of meters away. Rog is not worried about Venom's jumping ability. Even if he can't jump over, Venom won't die from this height. What's more, Venom is also a guy who is very good at using various weapons and props. The black Venom drew a beautiful parabola in the air, and then crashed into one of the floors of the Osborn building like a baseball that had been hit. Not long after Venom broke into the Oscorp building, a shrill alarm sounded in the Oscorp building. Along with the sirens, gunshots rang out one after another. Perhaps because it was in the Oscorp building, or maybe because the guards inside did not prepare heavy weapons with great lethality at all, only gunshots came from the building, there was no sound of shells or bombs exploding at all. Time passed little by little, and the floor where the gunshots came from was constantly changing. Within a few minutes, several police cars with flashing lights appeared downstairs of the Oscorp building. The first batch of New York police arrived. At the same time, a beautiful white figure also appeared in the distant building and quickly approached the Oscorp building where the alarm was ringing. Spider-Woman Gwen. Since it was in New York and the target of the attack was the Oscorp building, it was normal to attract Gwen. At this time, Spider-Woman was already a well-known superhero in New York. In New York, whether it was the 4th Hokage, Iron Man, Captain America, or other superheroes, they were all less popular than Spider-Woman. According to what Rog knew, New York's government was even considering promoting Spider Lady as New York's hero. Gwen didn't know that this riot was planned by Rog. She thought that this incident was just like the cases she had dealt with before, just an ordinary crime. However, when she saw Rog standing opposite the Osborn building, she knew that this time things were not as simple as she thought. As one of the women who knew Rog best, Gwen knew very well that with Rog's character, if it wasn't a particularly important matter or a commission, he basically wouldn't be interested in these criminal cases. Since Rog was at the scene and he had no intention of making a move, it meant that this incident was very likely planned by him. Why are you here? Is there a problem in Oscorp? After swaying to Rog through the spider silk, Gwen asked. It's not a big problem, I'm just interested in some things in Oscorp. For Rog, this is not a big problem. Whether it's Venom, who is now rampaging in Oscorp, or the 3 symbiotes who are likely to have fallen into Oscorp, they are not particularly interesting to him. 3 or 4 symbiotes can't meet his ambitions. 30 or 40,000 symbiotes or Nar, the god of symbiotes, meet his requirements. Won't the action inside hurt innocent civilians? Gwen asked worriedly as she glanced at the Oscorp building opposite. "Don't worry, I told him." After hearing Rog's answer, Gwen put down some of her worries a little. However, her eyes never left the Oscorp building where gunshots and sirens were ringing. Although Gwen has power beyond ordinary people, she is different from Rog. Her concern for ordinary people is far above Rog. Although Rog will not deliberately involve ordinary people in the battlefield when he acts, he will not let himself be restrained because of these ordinary people. This is the main reason why S.H.I.E.L.D. previously gave him a lack of sympathy for the weak evaluation. But Gwen is different. She is like a real police officer, and she is the kind of police officer who puts the safety of ordinary people first. Roger had warned Gavin many times before, warning her that such an approach could easily cause her to suffer unnecessary threats and harm. But no matter what he said, Gwen still insisted on this approach. In Rog's view, Gwen's approach was completely unnecessary, but perhaps it was because of her persistence that she was able to gain more support and love in New York than Rog and the Avengers. Don't worry too much. Although the guy inside is bloody and violent, he won't do anything to innocent people. He also has principles. Looking at the still worried Gwen, Rog opened his mouth to comfort her. Although Venom doesn't look like a good person, there is one thing he will never do, that is, hurt innocent people. The riot in the Oscorp building continued, and Venom also wantonly destroyed the Oscorp building in an almost crushing manner. At this time, Harry Osborn, who was in a secret research base of Oscorp, was observing everything that happened in the Oscorp building through real-time monitoring. Venom seems to have found something, and he actually took the initiative to come to us. As the chairman of the Oscorp group, Harry Oscorp was very clear about the origin of Venom, or rather, he was the one who brought Venom and others to Earth. According to the original plan, these symbiotes who came to Earth would become Oscorp's latest research material. But no one thought that with full preparation, Venom actually broke out with strength far beyond their imagination, forcibly breaking through the encirclement and successfully avoiding several subsequent pursuits. As a result, the symbiote capture plan, which should not have alarmed any organizations and forces, became a San Francisco special creature invasion event. What's more troublesome is that after the failure of the last capture, Oscorp completely lost news of Venom. Looking at Venom's wanton destruction in the Oscorp building on the screen, Harry Osborn's face became extremely gloomy. Chapter 275. They actually used such an obvious trap to test our reaction. It seems that the guy who took Venom away didn't put Oscorp in his eyes at all. Although Harry Osborn didn't know who took Venom away, he was sure that Venom's appearance in the Oscorp building had something to do with the guy who took Venom away. Harry Osborn didn't particularly care about Venom's wanton destruction in the Oscorp building. Even if Venom completely destroys the Oscorp building, it won't have any serious impact on Oscorp. It's just a building, it's no big deal if it's destroyed. What Harry couldn't accept was that the other party used such a simple and crude plan to test Oscorp. Venom, who managed to escape capture, wouldn't show up on his own initiative with such fanfare, let alone set the location of his appearance in the Oscorp building. Even if Venom found out that the arrest team had something to do with Oscorp, he would never take such a crude revenge action. According to the feedback of the three symbiotes, Venom is not only not the kind of existence that will desperately fight for his own kind, but when necessary, he will not hesitate to abandon his own kind. If Venom's appearance was not his own choice, then why did he do it? His purpose was obvious. Since they want to play, let's play with them. Let the prehistoric Behemoth Army and the Dark Thunder Army set off. It's too much of a bait to not eat. Harry Osborn said in an indifferent tone, and a look of victory appeared on his gloomy face. Venom's appearance was obviously a trap. Harry Osborn knew this very well, but he still decided to cooperate with the other party's plan. Even if the trap is cleverly designed, it depends on who steps in the trap. Traps used to catch rats not only can't hold the king of beasts but also put the hunters who set the traps in danger. Oscorp is not an existence that can be provoked by a random person or organization. With Harry Osborn's order, a strange figure left the secret research base and quickly rushed to the Oscorp building. At this time, Venom was still jumping up and down in the Oscorp building, repelling the guards in the Oscorp building again and again. Venom seems to be looking for something, but the fact is that he has no goal at all. The reason why he hasn't left the Oscorp building until now is purely because of Rog's request. Before the target appears, you can't leave. These were Rog's words. Rog did not say what the consequences would be if he did not cooperate, but Venom had no idea of disobeying. Rog was very dangerous, Rog was very cruel, and Rog hated people who didn't follow orders. The first evaluation was Venom's instinctive intuition when he first saw Rog. The second and third evaluations were the factual evaluations that Venom got from Abomination after coming into contact with it. So even with the honorary title of a partner, Venom decisively chose to cooperate with all of Rog's plans. Wait a moment, there might be some superhumans or other special creatures. You don't have to do anything, just leave it to me. Rog suddenly said to Gavin. Calculating the time, it was almost time for Oscorp to show their cards. Rog was not worried that Harry Osborn would see that it was a trap, and he was not worried that Harry Osborn would deliberately not take action after knowing that it was a trap. Harry Osborn was not the kind of person who would endure, and to some extent, he could even be called crazy. Let the Rhino Man conduct a combat test in New York and let the Electric Man blatantly appear in Times Square. When he wanted to do something, he didn't have any misgivings. It didn't take long for 9 life energy signals that were completely different from those of normal people to appear in Rog's perceptual network. The perceptual network was a new habit he had developed in the past 6 months. After Chakra's perceptual range reached a certain limit, he set himself up with a more convenient passive perceptual method. The perceptual network was just a name he casually came up with. It was called the perceptual network, but it was actually a long-term maintenance of chakra perception. However, unlike chakra perception, which could reach hundreds or even thousands of kilometers, the perceptual network's perceptual range was only 5 kilometers in diameter. With his location as the center, maintaining a circular perceptual area with a diameter of 5 kilometers for a long time was the perceptual network. These 2 life energy signals, where do I seem to have seen them? Rog had a sense of familiarity when he sensed the 9 non-human life energy signals for the first time. If he remembered correctly, he should have seen similar life energy signals before. After a quick recollection, especially after connecting the 2 special life energy signals with Oscorp, he soon found the answer. Dr. Connors and the Electric Man. The life energy signals that were now rushing to the Oscorp building were very similar to the life energy signals of Dr. Connors. Interesting. Was this Oscorp's trump card? Dozens of seconds later, Rog saw the true face of the 9 life energy signals. 6 lizard men similar to Dr. Connors and 3 mutants similar to the Electric Man. Although Dr. Connors took away all the information about the lizard serum, it was clear that Oscorp had reproduced his lizard serum formula and created their own lizard men. As for the 3 mutants, they should be the Electric Man that was created in batches. Although there were certain accidental factors in the birth of Dr. Connors and the Electric Man, it was not difficult for Oscorp, which was good at biotechnology, to reproduce this accident. These lizard men and mutants did not find Rog and Gavin in the opposite building. Like special soldiers, they went directly to the top floor of the Oscorp building and then attacked directly. Unlike Dr. Connors and the Electric Man, who did not use weapons, these lizard men and mutants were like real special soldiers, with various weapons hanging on their bodies. Not only that, Rog also saw protective gear similar to bulletproof vests and armor on them. Obviously, they were completely different from human warriors, but they still built combat equipment according to the thinking of human warriors. Oscorp's approach was quite interesting. Obviously, the path Oscorp wanted to take was not the path of a personalized superhero, but the path of an organized warrior. Although this was a completely different path from Konoha and the Avengers, it perfectly met the requirements of human beings for an organized force. Chapter 276. 9 specially modified warriors with 2 completely different paths of strengthening. Oscorp used its unique advantages in the field of biotechnology to create its own army of enhancers. Although these enhanced warriors have not yet had any remarkable achievements and have not even been officially announced to the public. But it's not hard to imagine how the military and other organizations will react when they know about these enhanced warriors. For a large organization, especially the military, the enhanced warriors who can be mass-produced and have good combat power are the super soldiers they really desire. Rog and Thor's powerful and unique existence, will not be the military's first choice. Whether it's the military or other organizations, they need soldiers who can obey orders unconditionally, not Rog and Thor, who are independent and uncontrollable. No matter how strong their combat power is, they must be able to control it. Will your men really have no problem? Gwen asked with some concern as she watched the 9 obviously not human warriors break into the Oscorp building. At this time, Gwen did not know the existence of venom. She thought that the person who destroyed Oscorp building was a member of Konoha. Don't worry, the guy inside is very tenacious. As long as they don't encounter a targeted fatal blow, the symbiotic demons can be regarded as an immortal cockroach. And Rog doesn't think Oscorp has any plans to kill Venom. Only living symbiotic demons have research value. When the 9 completely unlike human warriors entered the Oscorp building, the originally not-so-calm Oscorp building suddenly became more lively. Compared with the guards who only used ordinary firearms, the 9 enhanced warriors were obviously prepared. Even in the opposite building, Rog could see the burning flames. In addition to the flamethrowers, these enhanced warriors apparently also brought high-frequency sonic weapons specially designed for the symbiotic demons. It didn't take long for Rog to witness the scene of Eddie Brock, who had returned to his original form, being taken away by the enhanced warriors. But unlike when they first appeared, when these enhanced warriors left the Oscorp building, their number changed from the original 9 to 4. There were only 2 enhanced warriors with the appearance of lizard men left. There were also only 2 mutants with strange colored skin that occasionally emitted electricity. Fighting 1 against 9, and taking down 5 of them, even when the other side was fully prepared. Although Venom was defeated, the battle prowess he displayed was still very satisfactory. Rog did not stop these warriors from taking Venom away, or rather, this was the result he wanted. Delivering to the door didn't mean sending Venom to the Oscorp building, but sending Venom to the secret base of the Oscorp group. Using Venom as bait to fish out the real base of Oscorp, this is the real meaning of delivering the goods to the door. Of course, Oscorp can also send Venom to other bases to avoid exposing the real base. But that didn't stop Rog from looking for Oscorp's real research base. Using Venom as bait was just to find this research base faster. If Oscorp takes Venom to other places, Rog can also let Hinata and Konoha's intelligence department search for it. Unless Oscorp set up their research base on other planets, they would never escape the search of Hinata and Konoha's intelligence department. This is nothing more than a matter of how much work they do. When the 4 enhanced warriors quickly left New York with Eddie and Venom, Rog did not follow them, but used chakra perception to confirm the flying Thor technique on Eddie. He had intended to leave a technique on Venom, but Venom's special form made him dispel the idea. The flying Thor technique can't be fixed on Venom, which has no stable form and can change back and forth, so he can only leave the technique on Eddie. As long as Venom doesn't leave Eddie, then Eddie's location is where Venom is. As for whether Venom will be forced to leave Eddie's body, he only needs to pay attention to Eddie's life energy signal. Although Eddie, who was attached to Venom, did not seem to have changed in appearance, his life energy signal has changed significantly, which is completely different from the life energy signal of normal people. So as long as he pays attention to his life energy signal, Rog can know whether Venom is still in his body. When the flying Thor technique on Eddie stayed in a location in the suburbs for nearly half an hour, he teleported over with the flying Thunder God. He did not use the quantum transmission looted from Gordon, nor did he use the transformation technique to disguise himself. Oscorp is also an old friend, and as long as he does it, Oscorp can recognize his identity, so there is no need for disguise. In just a moment, he came from New York to Eddie's side and came to this secret research base belonging to Oscorp. Oscorp was well aware of the weakness of the symbiote, so they used a very clever way to suppress Venom in a state where he could not transform. At this time, what appeared in front of Rog was an enclosed space nearly the size of 2 basketball courts, and 2 teams of heavily armed lizard warriors and electro warriors. In this huge and somewhat outrageous enclosed room, there was also a huge display screen hanging. On the display screen was Harry Oscorp, the chairman of Oscorp, who has become famous in recent years. In addition, every corner of the room was filled with a mosquito-like buzzing sound. It was these ubiquitous buzzing sounds that made Eddie, who was tied to the chair, struggle as if he was possessed by an evil spirit. A black, petroleum-like substance constantly emerged and disappeared from his body. Obviously, these mosquito-like buzzing sounds were high-frequency sound waves specifically targeted at the symbiote. Rog looked up at the display screen hanging in the air and saw Harry Oscorp's unconcealable look of surprise. Although Rog has appeared in this room for more than 10 seconds, Harry Oscorp still hasn't recovered from the shock. How could it be him? How could it be the 4th Hokage Rog who took Venom away? Harry saw the picture of Venom being taken away on the streets of San Francisco, but he never thought that the person who used the strange transmission method would be Rog. Looking at Rog's smiling expression, Harry suddenly had a feeling that the whole world was against him. I just want to study the symbiote. How did this guy come out? Is this guy the natural nemesis of Oscorp? Was there still any reason in this world? Chapter 277. Looking at Harry Osborn's increasingly gloomy face on the screen, Rog shrugged helplessly. Although they haven't said a word yet, he can already guess what Harry Osborn is thinking. After a dozen seconds of silence, Harry Osborn suddenly said, "You all go down and turn off the sound wave instrument." He didn't know if he was hit by a bad fate, but Harry Osborn's tone became a little lonely. The 2 teams of heavily armed lizard warriors and electric warriors did not hesitate and left the huge room without looking back. "You want the symbiote too?" When only Rog and Eddie were left in this huge room, Harry spoke again. "Isn't it obvious?" Rog's answer made Harry's face even more ugly. Although Harry has not officially dealt with Rog, he knows very well that if Rog intervenes in the symbiote matter, then Oscorp can basically say goodbye to the symbiote research. "Aren't you being too overbearing?" The symbiote was discovered by Oscorp, and it was also Oscorp that let them come to Earth. "You are indeed strong, but Oscorp is not the kind of existence that will be easily manipulated by others." Harry knew that there must be someone else behind Venom, but he didn't expect that the person behind Venom would be Rog. He deliberately arranged for the Lizard Man warriors and the Electric warriors to capture Venom. He wanted to lure out the person behind Venom and capture Venom, the symbiotic demon that had escaped. Rog's appearance was indeed beyond his expectations and completely disrupted his plan. But even so, he had no intention of handing over the symbiote. The symbiote was the most important thing in Oscorp's next series of plans. So he would not hand over the symbiote, even if the person in front of him was Rog. "You don't have to look at me like that. I'm not interested in the 2 or 3 symbiotes you have on hand." Rog certainly knew what Harry Osborn was worried about. He wanted a symbiote, but definitely not one of the 2 or 3 small shrimps in Osborn's hands. After knowing that there were hundreds of millions of symbiotes on the homeworld of the symbiotes and the god of symbiotes, it would be too unambitious to set their sights on the symbiotes in the hands of Oscorp. If you want to play, then play big. For example, completely conquering the symbiote's mother planet. You want to go to that symbiotic planet? After hearing Rog's words, Harry Osborn's eyes lit up and his brain began to work frantically. He was not a fool. If he were a fool, he wouldn't have turned Oscorp into a kingdom of his own. From Rog's words, he could tell that they could cooperate and even make a lot of money. It's easier to talk to smart people. "That's right, I want to go to the symbiote planet. If you're willing to help me fulfill this small wish of mine, I don't mind bringing some symbiotic demons back for you. Even if Oscorp wants to reopen cooperation with the military, I can let Konoha speak for you." Since the establishment of Konoha's intelligence agency, most of the military's outsourcing orders have been directly digested by Konoha. Even a large part of it has been cancelled directly. Because of Konoha, Many companies that had commercial cooperation with the military, such as Oscorp, have lost orders from the military. If it weren't for Konoha's strength being overbearing enough and Rog's own strength being tyrannical enough, those companies and organizations that have lost military orders may have already had the idea of hiring murderers. You give me venom, and I'll give you the way to the symbiote planet. If you can come back alive, I want an additional 30 symbiotes. After thinking about it carefully, Harry Osborn gave his own conditions. Venom can't be given to you, and even if I come back from the symbiote planet, how many symbiotes I give you is up to me. Rog refused Harry Osborn's conditions without even thinking about it. What an international joke, he really thought he was looking for cooperation. The reason why he calmly talked to Harry Osborn about this matter was nothing more than to save some effort. To put it bluntly, the current Oscorp was not qualified to talk about cooperation with him. According to your statement, you basically want me to give you the way to the symbiote planet for free. And even if you complete your goal and come back, I may not be able to get a return because it depends on your mood at the time. Don't you think it's a bit too overbearing? Harry understood that Rog didn't have the idea of cooperating with Osborn from the beginning, he just wanted a way to go to the symbiote planet. Well, you don't know my style and Konoha's. Let's be direct, will you give it or not? Rog didn't take Harry Osborn's dissatisfaction to heart at all. Whether it was the Lizard Warriors or the Electric Warriors, in his view, they were just things to bully ordinary people. Not to mention that these two enhanced warriors were imitations, even their genuine Dr. Connors and Electric Man Max himself were only SOSO in terms of strength. Now there are two roads in front of Harry Osborn. The first is that he hands over the way to the symbiote planet, and then prays that Rog is a person with a good moral level, and hopes that Rog will give them a few more symbiotes. The second is that he would rather die than submit, and do his best to oppose Rog's overbearingness and maintain the dignity of Oscorp. Harry Osborn is a young man, but he is not the kind of young man who is full of vigor, so he quickly made a decision. Take Venom away, and I will send the relevant information to Konoha's headquarters. In addition, let me tell you first, the information we have is not complete. There is no way to establish a stable space channel, so if something happens, it has nothing to do with us. It is certainly impossible to win. At the beginning, S.H.I.E.L.D. and Thunder agents joined forces and failed to deal with Rog, so Oscorp is of course even more impossible. Although that battle was not open to the public, Harry Osborn is one of the few people who are qualified and able to know the specific situation. S.H.I.E.L.D. was disbanded, Thunder Agents was disbanded, and 3 helicarriers were destroyed. Hydra was the biggest scapegoat and was chased all over the world. Until now, he didn't even dare to show his head. It's really easy to talk to smart people. I accept Oscorp's kindness. After that, Rog grabbed Eddie, who was still a little depressed, and used quantum transmission to return to Konoha's headquarters. Chapter 278. Not long after Rog returned to Konoha's headquarters with Eddie, Harry Osborn transmitted the method to go to the symbiote's homeworld. Under the huge gap in strength, and in the face of potential benefits, Harry Osborn was not as hot-blooded as other young people, but made a wise choice that could benefit both sides. Rog was not particularly surprised by Harry Osborn's decision. Harry Osborn is a person who knows how to judge the situation. Compared with the future benefits and costs, face is not important. After receiving the information from Harry Osborn, Rog immediately asked Hinata to conduct systematic analysis and research. He didn't worry about the authenticity of the information, and Harry Osborn wouldn't do such a meaningless thing at this time. Letting Hinata do research and analysis is just to ensure that he can safely go to the symbiote's homeworld. He is indeed interested in the symbiote and the god of symbiotes, but he won't put himself in a dangerous situation because of his interest. A cautious ninja isn't just talking about it. Time passed day by day, and after repeated calculations and tests for nearly a month, Hinata finally calculated the relatively safe coordinates of the space channel. In order to build this space channel, Hinata also deliberately cut a piece of the black boulder that can connect to the Tatooine planet and used it as the main material of the space channel. In addition, Rog also used the Gem of Reality to cooperate with several tests, so that Hinata could calculate the space coordinates of the symbiote's homeworld faster. Even the Kree battleship, which has been renamed Golden Jack, became a test tool in Hinata's hands. On this trip to the symbiote's homeworld, Rog didn't intend to take anyone except Venom. In terms of strength, there are several people on Konoha's side who are stronger than Venom. But they don't have the ability to survive on the symbiote's homeworld. The symbiote's homeworld is not a planet suitable for human survival. Without the possession of the symbiote, humans can't survive on the symbiote's homeworld. At the beginning, Rog also intended to let Venom attach to himself so that he would have the ability to survive on the symbiote's homeworld. But in the end, he dismissed the idea. The reason is simple: he doesn't like the feeling of other creatures in his body. How should he put it? This kind of thing made him feel like his body had been seen by someone, and it was the kind that was seen by someone of the same sex. Therefore, while Hinata was constantly calculating the space coordinates of the symbiote's homeworld, he didn't stay idle and developed a new way of surviving in the universe for himself. Unlimited mode. Unlike the Sage mode of the 6 paths, 9 tails mode, and Sage mode that could greatly increase one's combat power, the infinite mode's increase in combat power was almost zero. The only use of infinite mode was to allow the user to survive in outer space or on other planets with a completely different environment from Earth. To some extent, the unlimited mode was equivalent to a multifunctional spacesuit that was suitable for any planet's environment. Since it did not involve the increase of combat power or the enhancement of the body, the difficulty of developing the unlimited mode was not very high. Especially for Rog, who is used to developing messy things and has the 7 attribute chakra, the development of infinite mode is not as difficult as the development of ninjutsu and genjutsu. After activating unlimited mode, Rog's entire body would be covered by the 7 attribute chakra coat. At the same time, it would emit a bluish-white glow. Simply put, when he enters infinite mode, he can survive in any environment without restrictions. In order to ensure the effect of infinite mode, he also deliberately went to outer space several times to test it. Of course, he tested it with the shadow clone technique at the beginning. The results of the test were no different from what he expected. Except for the continuous consumption of chakra, the infinite mode perfectly met all his requirements. After all the preparations were made, Rog and Venom, who entered the infinite mode, walked into the space channel to the symbiote's homeworld without looking back. Rog and Venom will go to the symbiote's homeworld through the space channel, and the Golden Jack controlled by Hinata will use the jump points in the universe to approach the symbiote's homeworld little by little. According to Hinata's calculations, the Golden Jack will arrive at the symbiote's homeworld 10 hours later than Rog. When the Golden Jack comes near the symbiote's homeworld, Rog can return to the battleship through the flying Thor or quantum transmission, and then return to Earth with the Golden Jack. There is no problem with the flow of the plan. The only thing to pay attention to is whether Rog and Venom can survive on the symbiote's homeworld until the Golden Jack appears. Regarding this, neither Rog nor Venom has any worries. Maintaining the infinite mode for 10 hours is not difficult for Rog. Even in the midst of an intense battle, there would not be any problems. As for Venom, of course, it is not a problem. The symbiote's homeworld is his home, and on the symbiote's homeworld he can move freely without a host. So when going to the symbiote's homeworld, Venom deliberately left Eddie. Although Eddie Brock is a good host, this good host is on Earth. Eddie has no combat experience, nor does he have any extraordinary abilities. Bringing him along is purely adding a burden to himself. As in the past, Rog once again left Konoha quietly and began his lonely journey. Only this time, there is a chattering guide, Venom, beside him. After coming out of the space channel, the first thing that appeared in front of him was a completely unfamiliar scene. Unfamiliar sky, unfamiliar Earth, unfamiliar everything. Welcome to the homeworld of the symbiote. He doesn't know if it is a matter of habit, or if he likes the humanoid body. Venom did not change into any other appearance, but maintained the transformed form with Eddie. Let's go. I hope you are really as welcome here as you said. After looking around at the scenery that was completely different from the Earth, Rog, exuding a blue and white light, walked straight ahead. Looking at the excessively calm Rog, Venom licked his fangs with his long tongue and then quickly followed. The purpose of Rog's trip to the symbiote's homeworld this time is very simple, that is, to capture as many symbiotes as possible, the stronger the better. If he can get the symbiote god, then of course it would be the best. But he can only think about this idea in his mind for the time being. The symbiote god, Ener, is a fierce man in the true sense, a fierce man who can cut off the head of the Kami group with a sword. The famous void in the universe may be the head of this unlucky Kami group. Chapter 279. If there is a chance, I must go to nothingness to take a look and meet the famous collector of the universe. Rog's mind at this time was not focused on the unique alien scenery around him, but he was planning his future trip to the universe. Although there are many hidden big shots on Earth, if you want to increase your knowledge, you still have to go to the universe. Not long after they set off, Venom would talk to Rog about some things on the symbiotic planet from time to time. But as he talked, he lost interest in talking. No matter what he said, Rog's answers were basically, "Is that so?" "Understood," "Not bad," and "Pretty good." If someone else treated him with such a perfunctory attitude, Venom would have bitten off the other party's head. But the person who was perfunctory with him now was Rog, so all he could do was to shut up obediently. Rog, exuding a blue and white light, and the black Venom walked on the barren land without saying a word, like two lonely travelers going to a place of pilgrimage in their hearts. The symbiotic planet is not a normal planet. Although there are hundreds of millions of lives here, these lives are, without exception, symbiotic planets. So here, there is no need to have any idea of appreciating unique alien civilizations and strange alien lifeforms. Although Rog and Venom were silent, this does not mean that their journey will be quiet all the time. After walking for nearly half an hour, Rog and Venom finally met their first wave of enemies. Liquid-like irregular bodies, and strange tentacle-like organs of different sizes all over their body. This group of squirming creatures that look similar to a disgusting version of slime are the symbiotic bodies of this planet. Do you know them? Rog stopped moving forward and asked Venom behind him without looking back. In his opinion, these symbiotic bodies are basically no different from each other except for the color. But this is only his judgment as a human. As a member of the symbiotic body, Venom may have some unique recognition skills. I don't know them. Venom looked at the symbiotic demons in front of him seriously and gave an affirmative answer. As soon as Venom answered Rog's question, the group of pale yellow symbiotic demons closest to them suddenly turned into a humanoid form. Venom in his humanoid form was more than 3 meters tall, and the symbiotic body standing in front of them at this time was nearly a meter taller than Venom. "You are Venom?" The light yellow symbiotic creature seemed to be uncertain as it asked in a doubtful tone. Rog raised his head and looked at the pale yellow symbiotic body that was only 4 to 5 meters away from him. A curious look appeared on his face. The bigger the body, the stronger the strength. This was a very simple and common standard to judge one's strength. If the symbiotic demons also followed this standard, then his first prey had appeared. "Who are you? Do you know me?" Venom looked at the pale yellow symbiote and asked, "You really are Venom? A few days ago, I heard that you and Howl were sucked away by the spatial rift. I didn't expect you to come back so soon. Is this creature your spoils of war? It doesn't seem to taste good." After that, the pale yellow symbiotic creature looked at Rog from head to toe and at the same time stuck out its disgusting long tongue. Venom didn't answer, but took a few steps back. Venom's strange action aroused the curiosity of the symbiotic creature, but before it could speak, a huge fireball with a diameter of more than 3 meters appeared in front of it. Fire release, grand fireball. Boom. The next second, an orange-red flame soared into the sky. Although Rog didn't say a word just now, it didn't mean that he didn't understand anything. After experiencing the language barrier with Luo Nen the manipulator, he paid attention to the language problems of this space travel. Universal Language Translator. There were many universal language translators on the captured Carry battleship, and he now carried one with him. Although the symbiotic creature's language was very unpopular, it was still in the Carey Empire's language library. The orange-red flame only lasted for a short 5 to 6 seconds before dissipating. The duration wasn't long, but the damage wasn't low at all. Especially since the one being attacked was a symbiotic creature with 0 fire resistance. When the flame completely dissipated, the pale yellow symbiotic creature that was taller than Venom once again revealed its figure. Unlike Venom, who could still maintain his human form after being hit by the Grand Fireball, the pale yellow symbiotic creature shrunk back to its original form after receiving the Grand Fireball head-on, like a burnt bread. Rog looked at the motionless symbiotic creature in front of him in disbelief, and looked at Venom with a puzzled expression. "What's this situation? Explain." Venom understood the meaning in Rog's eyes and immediately replied, "For our race, body size has nothing to do with strength. Transformation ability and recovery ability are the criteria for us to judge strength. The more types of weapons we can transform into, the better the quality, the stronger the strength, and the same goes for recovery ability. This guy is obviously just an ordinary guy." Venom seemed to look down on the fellow who was killed by a fireball. His tone was full of contempt. Although he was also quite miserable after being hit by the Grand Fireball, compared with this guy who died directly, he was undoubtedly much better. "What about the rest?" Rog pointed to the symbiotic creatures that haven't transformed. "They are all ordinary." Venom nodded with certainty. After hearing Venom's answer, Rog suddenly realized a problem. Although Venom's strength wasn't very strong in his evaluation criteria. But among the symbiotic creatures, Venom may already be a very famous powerhouse. This also means that the criteria for capturing the symbiotic creatures he set before may need to be greatly adjusted. According to his original plan, the symbiotic creatures that he can capture back to Earth must at least have the strength close to Venom. Otherwise, bringing these weak symbiotic creatures back is purely a waste of time and energy. Tell me honestly, what is your position in the symbiotic creatures? Don't tell me that you are just a weakling among the symbiotic creatures. The guy who died is the real weakling. Looking at Rog's serious look, Venom also put away his previous cynicism and said in a rare serious tone, "At the army level, ranked in the top 10. Rog didn't know if it was his own illusion, but when Venom said this, he suddenly felt that Venom in front of him seemed to have changed into a different person. Not only did his momentum suddenly become stronger, but even his life energy intensity seemed to have improved a lot. Chapter 280. Top 10 of the Army Level? Although Rog didn't know how the symbiotic demons were divided into strengths, the name of the Army Level was quite good. At least it looked quite strong. How many levels are there in your symbiotic demons? Rog looked up at Venom with a curious look on his face. There are a total of 6, Soldier, Elite, General, Army, Lord, and King. Most of them are below the General level. The Army level is still okay, and the Lord already has the strength to command a region. As for the King, there is only one, and that is the one you want the most. Venom explained solemnly. At this time, he didn't have the unrestrained demeanor he had on Earth at all, and he was like a different person compared to when he was on Earth. Looking at Venom's rare serious look, Rog suddenly had a trace of curiosity about Venom's past. After looking at Venom several times, Rog asked again, "Top 10 of the Army level, is it your previous strength or your current strength?" "Of course it's my previous strength. If I could maintain that strength all the time, how could I have fallen to this point? Although I can't maintain my previous peak state now, I can still have an outburst in a desperate state." At this point, Venom suddenly sighed, as if he was reminiscing about something. "While there is still time, tell me about your past. Maybe I can help you restore your original strength?" Except for sometimes being talkative, Venom's personality is quite good. More importantly, Rog felt that Venom's current strength was a bit too weak and did not meet his requirements for team members. If Venom can further improve his strength, he doesn't mind helping Venom. "Are you sure you want to listen? My past is not as good as you think." Of course. After getting a positive answer from Rog, Venom began to talk about his glorious and bleak past. Similar to creatures of other races, when the symbiotic demons were born, they were basically destined to reach the limit of what they could reach in this lifetime. To put it simply, the symbiotic demons are also a race that relies extremely on talent. Even if the talented symbiotic demons do nothing, they can slowly grow to the Lord level. As for the symbiotic demons with poor talent, even if they worked hard for their entire lives, they would only be able to reach the rank of elite or general. Venom's talent wasn't too bad. He was born with the strength of a general. This also meant that as long as he worked a little harder, he would be able to reach the army level. In the past, Venom had indeed grown to an army level and had his own symbiotic demon army. According to the life trajectory of the symbiotic demons, Venom at that time had basically reached the limit of what he could reach in this life. However, Venom was not willing to stay at the army level for the rest of his life. Venom was a symbiotic demon that was ambitious and had its own ambitions. Thus, Venom led his symbiotic demon legion on his journey of conquest. In other words, it was a journey to become stronger. For symbiotic demons, there were only two ways to become stronger. The first method was more commonly used and was also the current mainstream method. Relying on possession over and over again, he went through life and death battles that broke through his limits. If they succeeded, the symbiotic demons would be able to break through their own limits and grow to a higher level. Venom chose this method, so he took his symbiotic demon legion and took the initiative to go to the space crack again and again. Go to the new planet, possess the host, and keep fighting. If he died in battle, everything would be over. If he won, he would repeat the process again until he successfully broke through his limits. Through the naturally formed space crack, Venom went to one planet after another, and then returned to the mother planet alive again and again. In the end, Venom, who was originally ordinary among the symbiotic demons, relied on his own efforts to improve his strength to the top 10 of the army level. That period was the most glorious period of Venom's life so far. According to this development trajectory, Venom was very likely to rely on his own efforts to successfully break through to the Overlord level and become one of the few peak powerhouses among the symbiotic demons. According to Venom, there were hundreds of millions of symbiotic demons on the entire symbiotic demon mother planet, and there were less than 50 Overlord-level symbiotic demons. If there were no accidents, this would be a very inspirational story of struggle. But life was full of all kinds of accidents, especially man-made accidents. Just when Venom decided to set off again, he encountered a Overlord-level symbiotic demon. Then, the result was without a doubt, Venom lost, and he lost completely. This Overlord-level symbiotic demon defeated Venom, took away his army, and tore half of his body. The path that Venom chose to become stronger was to use life and death battles to break through his limits. In addition to this first, the most common way, there was a second, less common way but more effective way. Devour a symbiotic demon that is stronger than yourself. Treat other symbiotic demons as food and improve your own strength by devouring them. This method was more effective than the first method that Venom chose, but it was also more dangerous. Since the other party is stronger than you, what qualifications do you have to devour them? Normally, this would be an extremely difficult thing to achieve. But if you have an Overlord-level good friend, then it would be different. Generally speaking, there would not be particularly strong feelings between symbiotic demons, even if it was their own descendants. But there were all kinds of birds in the forest, and it was not particularly strange for one or two symbiotic demons to have extremely deep feelings for each other. In order to help his general-level good friend go further, this Overlord-level symbiotic demon targeted Venom, who was in the limelight, and then the development of the story returned to the common routine. After losing half of his body, Venom's strength plummeted, and he could barely maintain the intermediate zone between general level and army level. And the symbiotic demon that devoured half of his body successfully broke through to army level. Since then, Venom's life has fallen from the peak to the bottom of the valley. Especially those symbiotic demons that he had offended before, they came to him one after another to seek revenge. If it weren't for Venom's rich combat experience and cunning enough, he would have died in revenge again and again. After listening to Venom's story, Rog was silent for a few seconds. He had to say that Venom's experience was a typical fall of a genius. The only difference was that Venom was not the protagonist in the novel. After his fall, he did not rise again, but stayed at the bottom of his life. Boom! Just as Venom looked up at the gloomy sky with a lonely face, a cloud of white smoke appeared out of thin air. Then, an unused commission scroll appeared in front of him. Entrust it, I will help you get back what belongs to you. Chapter 281. Commission. Venom took the commission scroll from Rog and couldn't react for a while. He looked at Rog blankly. Yes, commission. You have also lived in Konoha for a while. You should know that I sometimes accept commissions from others and help them fulfill some small wishes and so on. By the way, let me tell you, my commission completion rate is 100%. Rog originally didn't have the idea of earning ninja coins from Venom, but after listening to Venom's story, he decided to help the somewhat miserable Venom. He absolutely can't let unfair things affect the life of a good young man who relies on his own efforts to make progress. Although unfairness is the underlying logic of the world, Rog won't let this unfairness appear on the people around him. Isn't it just a Lord-level symbiotic demon? If he can't even deal with the Lord-level symbiotic demon, what qualifications does he have to have the idea of the god of symbiotic demons? According to Venom, the god of symbiotic demons is the only monarch-level symbiotic demon, which is a level higher than the Lord level. Are you sure? Holding the commission scroll that doesn't quite fit his body shape, Venom asked again doubtfully. Of course I am sure. I have already thought about the commission reward for you, 10 army-level symbiotic demons. I will help you restore your original strength, and you will capture 10 army-level symbiotic demons for me, and then we will be even. There are only a few things that Venom can take out as a reward. Instead of squeezing Venom, it is better to let him squeeze other symbiotic demons. And for Venom who has restored his original strength, capturing 10 army-level symbiotic demons will not be difficult. Haha, since you have already planned everything, then I will accompany you to be crazy once. At worst, I will never come back again. As soon as his voice fell, Venom opened the commission scroll and quickly wrote. That's right, Venom wrote in English. Because he had only possessed Eddie, the only language and writing on Earth that Venom now knew was English. Not long after, Venom threw the completed commission scroll back to Rog. After receiving the scroll, Rog didn't even look at it before throwing it back into the channeling scroll. As soon as Venom finished writing, he saw the commission information in the system. Commission content. Help Venom restore his peak strength in his complete state. Commission status. Incomplete. Commission reward, 120 ninja coins. The reward given by the system was not very high. It was the same as the last time Jiaying entrusted him with 120 ninja coins. After completing Jia Ying's request, he didn't use any ninja coins, so he still had 765 ninja coins. After completing Venom's commission, he only needs to take a few more missions, and he should be able to smoothly break through the 1,000 ninja coins mark. At that time, he would be able to exchange for more expensive items. What's the name of the Lord-class symbiotic demon that tore apart half of your body? Don't tell me it's Riot? Rog asked casually after keeping the scroll. How do you know it's a Riot? Do you know him? After hearing the name of the Riot, Venom froze for a moment and quickly asked. I'm just guessing. Rog ended this topic in time, and then continued to walk towards the unknown distance. Looking at Rog's figure that was getting farther and farther away, Venom hesitated for a moment, and finally followed him. Rog and Venom ignored the symbiotic demons who had not left yet and did not dare to transform, as if they did not see them at all. Although there were bystanders present, they were not worried that these symbiotic demons would understand the conversation between them. They were all speaking English, and it was impossible for these symbiotic demons who had never been to the Earth to understand what they were saying. Moreover, sparing their lives would also help spread the news of Venom's return to the homeworld. Venom, who was at his peak, offended a lot of people, most of whom were army-level symbiotic demons. After all, if the difference in level is too big, it is impossible to have any interaction with Venom. So at this time, Venom was not only a guide, but also a bait. As for which symbiotic demon would be hooked, Rog and Venom would not care too much. When the two of them went straight into the distance at a leisurely speed, the news of Venom's return to the homeworld was also successfully spread out. More than an hour later, Rog and Venom welcomed the second wave of prey that took the initiative to come to them as they wished. "Is this okay?" Rog turned his head and asked Venom. "Absolutely." Looking at the dark red symbiotic demon that looked like a 6-footed demon wolf not far in front of him, Venom replied silently. According to the process they had discussed before, the symbiotic demons that meet Venom's Devour standard will be dealt with by Rog. When he beats the symbiotic demon half to death, Venom will forcibly devour the other party, and then use this to restore his own strength. If the symbiotic demon encountered does not meet the Devour standard, then Venom will deal with it himself. The symbiotic demons whose strength has reached the army level will first be beaten violently, and then imprisoned in the container prepared by Hinata. As for those whose strength has not reached the army level, of course, they will be killed directly. For Rog's trip to the symbiotic demon's mother planet, Hinata specially designed 100 sets of detention containers. These 100 sets of containers specially designed to imprison the symbiotic demons are now quietly stored in Rog's summon scroll. 1 minute. You can now think about what to eat next. As soon as his voice fell, Rog's figure disappeared. A silver-white electric snake as thick as a finger stopped at the place where he was originally standing. Lightning body flicker. Before the 6-footed demonic wolf-like symbiotic demon could react, Logue's figure appeared in front of him. Along with him, there was a silver-white semicircular arc lightning release. Thunderbolt sword draw. The thunderbolt sword formed by silver-white lightning instantly cut through the 6-footed demon wolf's head, directly cutting it off. The best way to deal with symbiotic demons is to use fire and sonic attacks. Rog can't use sonic attacks, and fire release is not his best ninjutsu, so at this time, he didn't choose fire release, but used lightning release. Strictly speaking, the symbiotic demons were not afraid of flames, but high temperatures. As for lightning evasion, it could also have a high temperature effect. Rog's attack was not only beyond the expectations of the 6-footed demonic wolf symbiote, but it was also beyond Venom's expectations. Venom thought that Rog would use flames to attack like before, but it turned out that he was thinking too much. After chopping off the head of the 6-footed demonic wolf, the thunder tachi in Rog's hand did not dissipate directly like before. In the next 10 seconds or so, Venom witnessed with his own eyes what it meant to raise his hand and slash his saber down, and what it meant to have outstanding saber skills. The 6-footed demonic wolf symbiotic body that had its head chopped off didn't even have time to transform into other forms before the thunder tachi slashed its body over and over again, cutting it from more than 3 meters tall to less than 1 meter tall. Chapter 282. Symbiotic demons can transform into various forms and various weapons, but there is a certain limit to their transformation ability. No matter how they transform, the things they transform into will not exceed the limits of their original body. Therefore, when dealing with them, consuming the weapons and bodies transformed by their original body as much as possible can effectively weaken the strength of the original body. This weakness, which was not a weakness, was specifically reminded of by Venom. Venom needs to devour other symbiotic demons to restore his strength, so what he needs is a symbiotic demon that is still alive, not a dead symbiotic demon. Rog's swordsmanship at this time seems to be freewheeling, but every time he uses the swordsmanship, he is extremely measured. It is necessary to consume the transformed body of the 6-footed demonic wolf symbiotic demon without causing too much damage to the original body of the symbiotic demon. In order to let this symbiotic demon meet Venom's devouring requirements, Rog can be said to have exhausted all his thoughts. The silver-white swordsmanship came one after another, and every time the thunder tachi slashed, it would take away a part of the symbiotic demon's body. This originally majestic 6-footed demonic wolf symbiotic demon, which was more than 3 meters tall, tenaciously persisted for more than a minute before helplessly changing back to its original form. Just when the dark red symbiotic demon had just changed back to its original form, Venom, who was fully prepared to eat, pounced on it without saying a word. Venom grabbed the slim-like symbiotic demon on the ground and stuffed it into his bloody mouth, and then wolfed it down. Rog removed the thunder tachi in his hand and turned around silently, without the slightest intention of appreciating Venom's eating manners. Venom's meal didn't last long. It only took less than a minute for Venom to completely devour the army-level dark red symbiotic demon and burped with great satisfaction. How is the effect? How many more do I need to eat to recover? From the outside, Venom at this time looked no different from before. But as long as you perceive the strength of the life energy in his body, you can find a huge change in it. If they are all at this level now, I estimate that it will take 20 or 30 more. But the more I recover, the higher the requirement for devouring, so I estimate that I should be able to recover after devouring about 10 more. After feeling his current state, Venom gave an answer that he was not very sure about. Only by devouring a symbiotic demon that was stronger than itself would there be a corresponding improvement. Therefore, Venom wasn't sure how many more he had to devour before he could return to his previous peak level. 10 is a little too slow. If they're lords, you should be able to recover after devouring 1 or 2, right? Although it was easy to deal with an army symbiotic demon, it was too time-consuming. And as Venom continues to recover, there will be fewer and fewer Legion-level symbiotic demons that meet the devouring requirements. Therefore, instead of targeting the army tier, it would be better to target the lord tier. At the very least, it would save a lot of effort. If it's a lord tier monster, let alone 2, even 1 would be enough. If I can devour 2 lords, I might be able to break through to the lord rank. After hearing Rog's words, Venom began to fantasize about the beautiful picture of himself breaking through to the lord rank. But he quickly recovered from this fantasy and said seriously, there is a fundamental difference between the lord and the army tier. Although I had the strength of the top 10 in the army tier before, in the face of the lord tier riot, I didn't even have the most basic strength to fight back. Are you sure you really want to start with the lord tier? They are not easy to deal with. I'm not doubting your strength, but I think we might not be in such a hurry. It's actually quite good to start with the army tier. Venom knows that Rog is very strong, but after all he has never seen Rog fight seriously, so he is still a little worried. Lord tier symbiotic demon, that is the well-deserved overlord of the symbiotic demon race. Even if there are hundreds of millions of symbiotic demons on the symbiotic demon planet, the number of lord tier symbiotic demons has not exceeded 50 so far. 1 in 10 million chance. One can imagine how abnormal lord tier symbiotic demons are. You don't have to worry about this. Since I have accepted your request, I will definitely help you fulfill your wish. Since 1 or 2 lord tier symbiotic demons can solve the problem, of course, he can only start with the lord tier symbiotic demons. As for the strength of the lord tier symbiotic demons, it is not within the scope of Rog's consideration at all. It is just a symbiotic demon. As long as it is not the symbiotic demon god Nar, it can't be that strong. Although Rog's mentality seems very arrogant, on this planet he has the confidence and strength to be arrogant. Chakra perception. Rog's perception range began to expand rapidly, and one after another symbiotic demons appeared in his perception. Through the life energy intensity of these symbiotic demons, Rog can roughly infer the level of these symbiotic demons. Symbiotic demons of the general level and below are directly ignored. Only the army tier symbiotic demons have the qualifications to be marked. As for the lord tier symbiotic demons, he has not found them yet. It was not until he expanded his perception range to 500 kilometers that a completely different life energy signal appeared in his mind. This life energy intensity is definitely that of a lord tier symbiotic demon. The life energy intensity of other symbiotic demons can only be regarded as a flame or a burning tree. And the life energy intensity of this lord tier symbiotic demon is like a volcano that can erupt at any time, restrained and not ostentatious, but full of power. Southeast, about 500 kilometers away, there is a lord tier symbiotic demon. As soon as his voice fell, a brilliant aurora-like light emerged from Rog's body, completely enveloping the two of them. Quantum teleportation. The next second, Rog and Venom's figures disappeared. In just an instant, Rog and Venom crossed 500 kilometers and arrived at the territory of the Lord Tier symbiotic demon. The moment they teleported over, a majestic gaze gathered on them. At the same time as the majestic gaze, there was also a substantial aura of intimidation. This aura is very strong. There is no need to look to know that this aura of intimidation came from the Lord Tier symbiotic demon. Rog was not a symbiotic entity, so this shocking shock only made him feel as if he was being stared at by a prehistoric giant beast, but he did not feel anything special. But Venom, as a symbiotic demon, was in a much more difficult situation at this time. Venom was trembling all over, as if he was struggling with his instincts, not letting himself kneel on the ground like he was surrendering. Is the suppression between the same race so obvious? Looking at Venom's struggling appearance, Rog knew why Venom said that he had no power to fight back in front of the Lord Tier symbiotic demon. Chapter 283. Being suppressed like this, let alone resisting, even normal activities would be a problem. In order to relieve the suppression on Venom, and also to make his side look more imposing, Rog raised his right hand and added a layer of light blue chakra coat to Venom. This layer of chakra coat will not bring any increase in strength to Venom, and it can only resolve the huge pressure on him. When the chakra coat was formed, Venom, who was trembling, suddenly returned to normal and looked at him with great gratitude. Introduce this guy? About 100 meters away from Rog, a huge black humanoid symbiotic demon was sitting cross-legged. Even sitting on the ground, this symbiotic demon was more than 10 meters tall. If he stood up completely, it would not be a problem for him to exceed 20 to 30 meters in height. He is tyrannical, and he has reached the Horde Lord level in more than 1,000 years. Even among the Horde Lord level symbiotic demons, his strength can be ranked in the top 10. Although Chakra Coat resolved the terror from tyrannical, Venom still showed a rare fear in the face of this existence that he could only look up to. Top 10 in the Horde Lord level, then if you can eat him, you should be able to enter the Horde Lord level. Unlike Venom, who was exuding fear all over his body, Rog was unnaturally calm at this time. It's just a Horde Lord level symbiotic demon, no matter how strong it is, it can't be that strong. Besides, even if he can't win against this guy called Tyrannical, if he wants to leave, Tyrannical will definitely not be able to stop him. Step back a little, in case you get caught up in the battle later. After saying that, Rog walked towards Tyrannical, who was far larger than himself. Looking at Rog, who was exuding a blue and white light, Tyrannical in the distance opened his mouth full of sharp teeth and said with interest, "It's actually an Earthling, interesting." Tyrannical spoke standard English as soon as he opened his mouth, so standard that it made people wonder if he specifically looked for an English teacher to tutor him. So you know the language of Earth. That's much more convenient. Under Tyrannical's gaze, Rog walked up to him unhurriedly and looked up at the giant whose fist was bigger than his body. Although there aren't many Earthlings in the universe, I've eaten a few before. The taste and texture weren't very good. Tyrannical didn't seem to have any intention of attacking. His tone was calm as if he was discussing with Rog what to eat for dinner. The taste of Earthlings might not be that good, but I think your taste is pretty good. If Venom can eat you, he will be very happy. Tyranny looked at Rog as if he was looking at prey, and Rog was also looking at him as if he was looking at prey. Although Tyranny was prepared for Venom, this does not affect Rog's classification of Tyranny as food. Venom ate me. Venom used to be a good young man, but now he's just a useless trash. You are actually with such a trash, then it seems that you are not much better. On Rog's body, Venom can feel a fatal threat. But for Tyrannical, whose strength far exceeds Venom, Rog's strength is barely passable. For prey of Rog's strength, Tyrannical can't say that he has eaten thousands, but there are at least hundreds of them. So in Tyrannical's eyes, Rog is nothing more than a snack that takes the initiative to come to his door, that's all. Whether I'm a trash or not, you will know soon. As soon as his voice fell, Rog took the initiative to launch an attack. Lightning body blink. Lightning sword draw. Rog, who was still a distance away from Tyrannical, disappeared in an instant and flashed in front of Tyrannical, and the thunder katana in his hand directly slashed at Tyrannical's neck. Just as the thunder katana with the power of thunder was about to hit Tyrannical's neck, a big black hand about the same size as Rog's body rushed out of Tyrannical's neck and grabbed the silver-white blade. Clang. The thunder katana was blocked as if it had cut an extremely hard steel, and the huge recoil directly shattered the thunder katana in Rog's hand. It's actually so hard? Although the big black hand transformed by Tyrannical is not real metal, it is harder than ordinary metal. The thunder katana was shattered, and Rog did not hesitate and immediately retreated. A Lord-tier symbiotic demon was indeed different. Tyrannical didn't seem to see Rog's retreat at all, and let him leave without any intention of pursuing him. After easily pulling away, Rog shook his slightly numb right hand, and his eyes began to become serious. Unlike the symbiotic demons he had encountered before, Tyrannical is not only larger in size, but also has higher life energy, and even the transformed limbs are harder. The thunder katana, which can easily cut through real metal, can't cut through the big black hand he casually transformed. This kind of defensive power is terrifying. No wonder Venom said that there is a fundamental difference between Lord-level symbiotic demons and Legion-level symbiotic demons. The huge gap between the two is like two different species. Since the effect of the melee attack is not good, it's time to change to a long-range attack. Fire release, Great Fire Annihilation. Rog spouted an orange-red high-temperature flame from his mouth, and as the distance increased, the scope of the flame became larger and larger. When the flame swept across a distance of tens of meters and came in front of Tyrannical, the flame, which was only as thick as a finger, had expanded into a sea of fire. It covered the sky and burned everything. Tyrannical can ignore the thunder katana, but he can't ignore this great fire annihilation. With the Sanbai's chakra, Rog's great fire annihilation has not reached the level of Uchiha Madara, but it is definitely not far away. One is Madara's fire release, and the other is water release. In front of the amazing sea of fire, Tyrannical, who has been sitting on the ground, finally had a serious expression. However, Tyrannical still didn't stand up. Tyrannical's hands slammed on the ground, and in the next second, a black wall appeared in front of him out of thin air, blocking all the flames. Zzz. The sizzling sound continued to sound, and when the sea of fire covering the earth dissipated, the black wall in front of Tyrannical finally revealed its true appearance. Tyrannical directly transformed into a wall more than 10 meters high and dozens of meters wide, blocking all the flames in front of him. Although the symbiotic demons are naturally afraid of fire damage, this weakness can be eliminated. Tyrannical is a top-level symbiotic demon that eliminates the weakness of fire. Even the two weaknesses of fire and sound can't be eliminated, it is not qualified to be a Lord-level symbiotic demon. Chapter 284. Lord-level symbiotic monster is really different. Although the black wall transformed by Tyrannical was destroyed by the fire, there were holes everywhere, and it looked like it would completely collapse with a little bit of force. But there was no doubt that this black wall completely blocked all the damage from Tyrannical, and it didn't let Tyrannical suffer any damage. Compared to Venom, who was attacked by Tyrannical's fireball, and compared to Tyrannical, who was attacked by Tyrannical's fire, the gap was really big. You Earthling, you are quite interesting. After removing the tattered black wall, Tyrannical looked at Rog with interest, as if he had seen a rare animal. You are also quite good, stronger than I thought. Until now, Tyrannical was still sitting on the ground, and he didn't move at all. Among the enemies he fought, the only one who could make Rog attack twice without moving was Tyrannical. Although in terms of overall strength, Tyrannical might not be the strongest one. However, the attitude he displayed was the most domineering and powerful of them all. If you only have this much strength, you and Venom won't be able to leave here alive today. Attack with all your might, Let me see if you, who are in the same team as that trash Venom, are really trash. At this time, Tyrannical still looked like he didn't put Rog in his eyes at all. Rog's fire just now was indeed unexpected, but that was it. You want to see my full strength? Sure, but don't regret it. After the 2 attacks just now, Rog had a rough understanding of Tyrannical strength. Then, of course, it was time to take it seriously. With a thought, a Rasengan wrapped in silver-white lightning appeared in his right hand. When this Rasengan appeared, Tyrannical suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of danger in the distance. What does this guy want to do? Tyrannical looked at the silver-white Rasengan in Rog's hand, and a trace of doubt appeared on his expressionless face. Soon, Tyrannical got the answer. Right-un, spiral railgun. Almost at the moment when Rog raised his right hand, the Rasengan wrapped in silver-white lightning appeared in front of Tyrannical. Rumble! A terrifying explosion like an intercontinental missile sounded, and a blue-white ball of light rose from Tyrannical's position, like a scorching sun rising from the ground. The energy storm full of destruction and death raged wildly, and the terrifying shockwaves and airwaves swept everything around, creating a shocking scene like the end of the world. No wonder he asked me to step back a little. Looking at the terrifying scene created by the spiral railgun, Venom began to rejoice that he followed Rog's instructions from the beginning. Luckily, I didn't make him my enemy from the start. Luckily, Venom couldn't help but recall the first time he met Roger, and at the same time felt gratified for his wisdom at that time. At this time, not only Venom, but also Tyrannical was hit by the railgun. Tyrannical, SSSSSS attack, at least, Tyrannical's. Compared to the Grand Annihilation Flame, the spiral electromagnetic cannon's power was several orders of magnitude stronger. If the power of the Magnum Inferno was equivalent to that of an ordinary pistol, then the power of the electromagnetic pulse cannon was equivalent to that of a Barrett heavy sniper rifle. The two were on completely different levels. Because of his overconfidence, the tyrant had no choice but to take all the damage from the electromagnetic gun. If he hadn't been sitting on the ground all this time, even if the final result was still failure, it would definitely be much better than now. In order to minimize the damage to himself, Tyranny rolled into a ball without caring about his image, protecting his most important body in the innermost circle. Even so, under the terrifying power of the spiral railgun, Tyranny's transformed body was shrinking at an alarming rate. Fortunately, the electromagnetic pulse cannon was not a continuous attack. As long as he survived the explosion phase, the damage would only decrease and disappear quickly. When the power of the explosion had completely dissipated, and when the dust that filled the sky fell to the ground, Tyrannical's figure once again appeared in front of Rog. Compared to the astonishing figure of the tyrant that was more than 10 meters tall when he sat down, the current tyrant was less than a meter tall. To be precise, it was a black spherical body less than a meter in diameter. Although it looked miserable, the damage Tyrannical suffered was not as serious as it looked. Most of his body was preserved by him. As for the ones that he lost, it was only a small matter. As long as his body was still there, he could transform into any body he wanted at any time. Looking at the black sphere rolling around in the crater caused by the explosion, Rog's right hand once again emitted silver-white lightning. There was nothing that the electromagnetic pulse cannon couldn't solve. If there was, then he would use it again. Just as he was about to continue to use the electromagnetic pulse cannon, the black sphere in the crater started to spin wildly like a black tire. Then, lightning rushed out of the crater and ran away without looking back. Running away? The top 10 Lord-level symbiotic demons only had this much ambition? His mentality collapsed so easily? Looking at Tyrannical, who quickly disappeared from his sight, Rog looked at Venom with some confusion. Venom also didn't expect that the famous Tyrannical would run away, and run away so decisively. In Rog's perception, although the intensity of Tyrannical's life energy has decreased a little, it is far from reaching the point where he is seriously injured. If he wants to seriously injure Tyrannical, at least 1 or 2 electromagnetic pulse cannon shots will be needed, and it has to be the kind that completely hits Tyrannical. You wait for me here, pay attention to your own safety, don't get eaten by other guys. After instructing Venom, Rog used quantum teleportation to chase after them. It is not in his character to let go of the prey that is about to be caught. The ball-like tyrannical did run very fast, but no matter how fast he is, he can't be faster than Rog's quantum transmission. After using quantum transmission to appear near tyrannical again, Rog didn't hesitate and opened his mouth to use water release. Water release. Water ripple breaker. Water ripple breaker is one of the signature ninjutsu of second Hokage Tobirama. Tobirama's water ripple breaker can even easily cut off the roots of the sacred tree. Rog has never used water ripple breaker in a formal battle before because he felt that the action of spitting at the enemy was not in line with his cool style. Water ripple breaker is powerful, lethal, long-range attack, wide range, and fast. Except for the fact that it can only be spat out from the mouth, there are almost no shortcomings. Chapter 285. A high-pressure water column spurted out from Rog's mouth, like a laser beam, attacking the rapidly rolling tyrannical. At first, the water column was only as thick as a finger. But when the water column arrived in front of tyrannical, it had grown to the size of an arm. From the outside, the water column of water breaker looked ordinary, similar to the water column shot out from a high-pressure water gun. However, when the arm-thick water column hit the ball-like tyranny, the water column directly pierced through tyranny's ball-like body, like a thin string piercing through tyranny's body. Perhaps it was because tyrannical didn't strengthen his body, or maybe tyrannical didn't care about the attack of water breaker at all. Even the thunder tachi couldn't cut through tyrannical's body, but water breaker instantly pierced through it, like piercing through a soft cake without any hindrance. Although Rog had tested the power of water breaker before, he wasn't absolutely sure whether it could pierce through tyrannical's body. Seeing that water breaker easily pierced through tyrannical's body, tyrannical didn't hesitate and suddenly twisted his neck. The straight water breaker instantly transformed into a high-pressure water knife, cutting through tyrannical's body. Tyrannical didn't expect that the seemingly weak water breaker would have such amazing lethality. When the water breaker transformed into a water knife to cut through his body, tyrannical decisively chose to transform and let his body avoid being cut by the water knife. In the blink of an eye, tyrannical's body turned from a round ball into a half-meter-tall feline, pouncing to the side at lightning speed. Tyrannical's transformation wasn't slow, but even so, water breaker still left an extremely obvious wound on his body. However, the wound that spanned almost the entire back only existed for a short 1 or 2 seconds before disappearing. The power of water breaker was a little better than Rog expected. He originally planned to use water breaker to stop tyrannical's tumbling. But now, not only did he stop the round tyrannical, but he also left a considerable injury on tyrannical. After transforming into a feline to avoid the follow-up damage of water breaker, tyrannical didn't continue to maintain his feline form. He transformed into a human form that was only a head taller than Rog. From a biological point of view, the two-legged walking posture of humans was not very outstanding. Not to mention the insect form, which had better individual performance, even most animal forms were better than human forms. Of course, this excellence was only established in instinctive activities that did not involve intelligence. Why do all the intelligent races in the universe have human-like bodies? Other than the fact that it had something to do with the laws of the universe that could not be explained, another reason was that humanoid bodies were more versatile. In terms of individual performance, the humanoid body had no other advantages other than its larger brain. However, in terms of overall performance, the humanoid body was definitely the king of the price-performance ratio. However, this shouldn't have anything to do with the tyrant turning back into his human form. Rog speculated that tyranny should be one of the few symbiotic demons that preferred humanoid bodies. This could be seen from his original giant body. After personally experiencing the power of the electromagnetic pulse cannon, the tyrant decisively gave up on the idea of enlarging his body. The bigger the body, the bigger the target, and the easier it was to be hit. As a symbiotic demon that had lived for countless years and conquered countless planets and races, the tyrant understood this principle. More importantly, the tyrant felt that transforming into a human form that was similar to Rog's would allow him to better unleash his strength. The tyrant had never been to Earth and had not seen many Earthlings. However, there was one thing that he was very sure of, and that was that Earthlings' bodies were very weak. In his opinion, Rog was a classic example of someone who had high offense and low defense. When facing such an enemy, one fatal attack would usually be enough to take their life. Although the tyrant's body had become much smaller, this did not mean that his strength had decreased. A smaller body meant a smaller target to attack and a faster attack speed. After making up his mind, the tyrant immediately ran toward Rog. The sharp claws on his hands emitted a cold metallic glow. Apart from his hands, he had also hardened his entire body to the point that even the thunder tachi could not cut through it. Not only that, but black tentacle-like tentacles also surged out of his body, showing a different style of Cthulhu. Facing the tyrant who was rushing toward him, Rog stood motionless as if he did not see him at all. 50 meters, 30 meters, 10 meters, 5 meters. Although the symbiotic demons were not a race that excelled in speed, the last 5 meters were basically non-existent for the tyrant. Just as the tyrant was trying to directly pounce on Rog and quickly get rid of this earthling who made him so embarrassed, Rog finally moved. Because of infinite mode, Rog was always in a state of light. At this time, a light blue light emerged from his body again. Unlike the blue and white light that enveloped the whole body in infinite mode, this light blue chakra quickly condensed the moment it emerged from his body. In just an instant, a skeleton with only some ribs and arms appeared beside Rog. Susanu. At this time, Rog had many ways to dodge or resolve the tyrant's attack, but he chose Susanu, which had never been used in a real battle. Compared with other enemies, the tyrant, who had outstanding regeneration ability and was only good at melee attacks, was undoubtedly a rare test target. Boom! The tyrant, who was running wildly, collided with the Susanu formed by chakra, and the strong impact produced a shock wave visible to the naked eye. However, even in this situation, which was like being hit by a heavy truck at full speed, Rog's Susanu did not even shake. The tyrant thought that Rog's Susanu was just an ordinary energy manifestation, but the moment he came into contact with Susanu, he knew that he guessed wrong again. This is not an energy manifestation. This thing is very dangerous. The crisis instinct that originated from the depths of the tyrant's soul frantically warned him. The tyrant had realized that something was wrong, but at this time, he had no chance to leave. Although Rog is now using the first stage of Susanu, that is, only a part of the ribs and an arm form, the defense and attack power of Susanu will not change significantly because of the different form. After using Susanu to block the tyrant's impact, Rog did not hesitate at all and used the only bone right hand on Susanu to grab the humanoid tyrant. Caught you! The tyrant, who was caught by Susanu's bone right hand, was just about to change his form and break away from the bondage, when an indescribably terrifying grip fell on his body. Crush you! Chapter 286. Ah! Tyrannical, who was caught by Susan, screamed like a wild beast. The light blue chakra forcibly covered his whole body, making it impossible for him to change his body shape and escape. Although Chakra's materialized arm wasn't a real body, it was no different from a real arm when controlled. Rog continued to increase the strength of his right hand, and the brutal screams became more and more obvious. The chakra that forcefully covered the tyrant's body not only formed an airtight cage, but it also continuously corroded the tyrant's body like lava. At this moment, Despot finally understood why Rog had always been so calm. This guy had been hiding his strength all along. No, it wasn't that he was hiding his strength. It was that he simply couldn't be bothered to use his full strength. Let Venom eat me? Tyrannical recalled what Rog had said, and his mood worsened. If Rog had come with other motives, he might have been able to negotiate a deal with Rog and solve this problem in a more civilized way. But Rog's original purpose was to let Venom eat him, which means that there is no possibility of any transaction between them. He was dead for sure today. No, absolutely not. As a Lord-class symbiotic demon, I definitely cannot be devoured by an army-class symbiotic demon. Ever since the birth of the symbiotic demons, there had never been such a case of a junior defeating a senior. Despot didn't want to become the first person in the history of the symbiotic demons. He also didn't want to die in the hands of an earthling for no reason. Thus, Ba Zi began to play with his life in the truest sense. The huge power coming from Susanu's right hand was like a mountain-crushing tyrannical, and the chakra covering his whole body also cut off the idea of using transformation to escape. You forced me to do this. With a thought, tyranny, who was originally in human form, began to rapidly expand like a human-shaped balloon. Despot chose to enlarge himself at this moment, and he didn't care about the damage to his body. If he was crushed to death, then no matter how perfect his body was, it would be meaningless. In that case, he might as well go all out and directly break through the binding of Susanu and chakra at the cost of his body. The unique life form of the symbiotic demons could allow them to take any form they wanted. However, under normal circumstances, they would only use a small portion of their bodies to transform. The more of his original body he used during the transformation, the stronger the transformed form would be. To put it simply, the more the original body was used, the tougher and stronger the transformed body would be. At this moment, Despot chose to use his true body. This also meant that the body he transformed into now would be far stronger than any of his previous incarnations. It might even reach the point of being indestructible. Using 100% of the original body to carry out the transformation brought about a visible increase in strength. However, this was also extremely risky. If the body he had transformed into using 100% of his original body was destroyed, then he would undoubtedly die on the spot. Since his main body had been completely consumed, he naturally lost all possibility of survival. Despot was well aware of the risk of using his true body, but he could only do so now. If he did that, there was still a chance of survival. If he didn't do it, he would definitely die. The frantically expanding tyranny opened up Susanu's right hand little by little, using brute force to gain more space for himself to move. As the controller of Susanu, Rog immediately noticed the change in tyrannical. Later, when the tyrant was planning to continue, he silently cast a lightning release ninjutsu. Electric discharger, 100 million volts. A terrifying silver-white electric current instantly emerged, and a silver-white electric snake emerged from Susanu's right hand, and at the same time, there was a crackling sound of electric current. Despot, who was trying his best to expand his victory, did not expect Rog to extinguish his flames of hope the moment he gained some breathing space. Streaks of silver-white electric snakes continued to swim around the tyrannical black body, causing his black body to turn red, like a shrimp that was quickly being cooked. Ah! The tyrannical screams rang out again. Using Susanu to cast ninjutsu is not a particularly strange thing. For example, Uchiha Madara can make Susanu form hand seals and cast ninjutsu independently. And strictly speaking, at this time, Rog was not using Susanu to cast ninjutsu. What he was doing now was just treating Susanu as a part of his body. The person who used Raiton, lightning discharger, was still him, but he used Susanu's right hand as his own, making lightning discharger attack tyrannical directly. When electric discharger, 100 million volts, completely disappeared, Despot in Susanu's right hand was like a completely roasted fish, emitting heat visible to the naked eye. At this time, Despot was motionless, and his figure also changed back to a state where he was only a head taller than Rog. Looking at his appearance, Despot seemed to be completely dead, but in his body, the life energy was still there. Looking at the miserable Despot, Rog directly released Susanu's right hand, letting the motionless Despot fall to the ground. However, at the moment when he fell to the ground, Despot came back to life again. In just a blink of an eye, Despot turned into a round ball with a diameter of only 20 or 30 centimeters, trying to run for his life again. But this time, before he could roll far, a long sword formed entirely of chakra nailed him to the ground. Chakra long sword. The ability to let Susanu use simple swords and swords is an ability obtained after cultivating Susanu to its first form. With a complete skeleton, In addition to all the abilities of the initial form, the first form can also materialize chakra into some simple weapons to enhance combat power. At this time, although Rog only displayed the initial form of Susanoo, this does not affect him from using the abilities of the first form. If he wants, he can even use a long-range attack ninjutsu in the initial form, which is only available in the second form, Yasaka no Magatama. But just dealing with Despot who was trying to escape, there is no need to use Yasaka no Magatama. After being nailed to the ground by chakra, Despot did not hesitate and changed his form again, turning into a pool of flowing black liquid. Odama Rasengan. As soon as Despot turned into a black liquid, Rog's second attack fell on him. When Rog used it himself, the diameter of Odama Rasengan was only 1 meter. But the diameter of Susanoo's Odama Rasengan reached an astonishing 5 meters. The bigger the palm, the bigger the Odama Rasengan. Chapter 287. High-end ingredients often only require the simplest cooking method. After being busy for a long time, Rog finally began to make this Lord-level symbiotic monster meal that belonged to Venom. The Odama Rasengan with a diameter of 5 meters was like the most sophisticated blender, descending on the body of the tyrannical, which turned into a pool of black liquid. The body of the tyrannical was cut and shrunk rapidly as if it was cut by thousands of sharp blades. Except for the main body, all the other parts of the body were removed by the madly rotating Odama Rasengan, leaving only the purest and most original body. At this time, Rog was like a real chef, using a simple method to let the tyrannical return to the most primitive state, exuding the most natural fragrance. Although there was no change in the oral cavity and other parts, the tyrannical still let out a burst of harsh screams. The screams came from the crazy vibration of the main body of the tyrannical, accompanied by the rotating sound of the Odama Rasengan, playing a different symphony hand in hand. When the main body of the tyrannical began to stop shaking and gradually return to the most primitive slime clay state, Rog finally removed the Odama Rasengan from Susanoo's right hand. This guy won't die, right? At this time, the tyrannical was curled up in a big pit more than 10 meters wide and 3 or 4 meters deep, looking like he had completely lost his life. Chakra perception. Rog frowned and sensed the situation in the tyrannical's body, then breathed a sigh of relief. Although the strength of the life energy in the tyrannical's body is far less than before, it is even much weaker than the original Venom. But one thing is certain, the tyrannical is not dead yet. That being said, the tyrannical at this time is worse than death. Because he is about to become the first person in the history of the symbiotic monster clan, and the first Lord-level symbiotic monster to be devoured by an army-level symbiotic monster. After grabbing the motionless tyrannical with Susanoo's right hand, Rog used quantum transmission to return to Venom's position. It has to be said that Venom is very obedient sometimes. When leaving, Rog asked Venom to wait for him in the same place. As a result, Venom really didn't move a single step. He lay on the ground obediently, waiting for Rog's return. Venom wasn't worried that Tyrannical could escape from Rog's hands, even if Tyrannical was a Lord-ranked symbiotic monster and was one of the top 10 Lord-ranked symbiotic monsters. However, in front of Rog, it was impossible for him to escape. Although Venom had never seen Rog go all out, he was certain that Tyrannical was definitely not a match for Rog. Abomination had a deep understanding of Venom's thoughts. This was a kind of blind worship that would never disappear once it appeared. Even if Rog fought the symbiote god Nar alone, Venom felt that Rog had a higher chance of winning. Venom may not have realized it himself, but he had unknowingly divided himself into Rog's side. When the familiar aurora-like brilliant light reappeared, Venom, who was lying on the ground, jumped up, and he became extremely excited. He's back, Rog is finally back. After the brilliant light of quantum transmission disappeared, Venom saw Rog as he wished, and the black creature in Susanoo's right hand. This was Tyrannical. The Lord-ranked symbiotic monster was directly beaten back to its original state. Can I devour Tyrannical now? Although Venom was trying to control himself, when he spoke, His eyes still involuntarily stayed on Tyrannical's body. Of course, this is what we agreed on in the commission. After that, Rog put the motionless Tyrannical in front of Venom and then deactivated Susan. As soon as Rog put down Tyrannical, Venom was like a hungry wolf, and he pounced on Tyrannical without saying a word. Then, there was a somewhat disgusting scene of eating. Rog ignored Venom's eating etiquette and turned around silently, not wanting Venom's behavior to affect his future appetite. Venom's eating didn't last long. To be precise, it was less than 10 seconds. The motionless Tyrannical was stuffed into Venom's body. It was like a python swallowing a huge prey alive, swallowing it whole. When Tyrannical's body entered Venom's body, Venom let out a howl that was either excited or uncomfortable, and hundreds of thin and thick black tentacles gushed out of his humanoid body. Then, Venom fell back, lying directly on the ground, and burped with satisfaction. The process of Venom devouring Tyrannical was very short, only less than 10 seconds. But in order to digest the Lord-ranked Tyrannical, it took Venom more than 3 hours. In the past 3 hours, Venom seemed to have fallen into hibernation, lying motionless on the ground. If it weren't for the increasing strength of his life energy, Rog would even suspect that he was killed by Tyrannical. When Venom ended his hibernation and stood up again, Rog felt a completely different aura from him. If the previous Venom gave people the feeling that he was a frivolous street gangster, then he would have been more like a frivolous street punk. Then the current Venom is a bit like a weather-beaten, murderous underworld overlord. "Thank you." Venom came to Rog and said very solemnly. At the same time, he bowed slightly and saluted to Rog. "You're welcome." In the next few hours, Venom used facts to prove how powerful he was after devouring Tyrannical. No matter how powerful the army-level symbiotic demons were, under Venom's attack, they couldn't last more than a minute. The 10 army-level symbiotic demons required for the commission reward were completed by Venom in just over 10 minutes. Of course, this was under the condition that Rog used quantum transmission to save a lot of time on the road. Ninja coins not consumed, 885. The system's commission reward was sent to Rog's account immediately after Venom paid the commission reward. Looking at the ninja coins in the highest position in history in the attribute panel, Rog showed a satisfied smile. After returning to Earth, as long as he makes a few more commissions, he can make the unconsumed ninja coins break through the 1,000 mark and then exchange for some real high-level items. For example, half of QB. Yes, half of QB costs a full 1,000 ninja coins. Of course, the system is not the kind of ruthless existence. Half of QB costs 1,000 ninja coins. But if you want to exchange for 2 QB at once, it only costs 1,800 ninja coins. Go find Riot. I want to see your battle of revenge. Rog said to Venom after putting another symbiotic demon that Venom had defeated into a container. Because of Venom's hard work, 72 of the 100 containers in the summon scroll have been used at this time. It is only a matter of time before the containers are filled, so Rog intends to end this boring capture operation temporarily. You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.